Warcraft Invasion of Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401 Tony, I need your explanation. Second update. Jarvis, what happened? Tony coughed to hide his embarrassment. Sorry, sir. There is a problem with the data of the anti-Thor armor. The energy pipeline's carrying capacity is wrong, and a total of 1,346 devices are short-circuited. Preliminary calculations show that you have lost at least $300 million. Jarvis said, the calculation itself is fine, but the consideration of external influences is insufficient. When Thor uses Thor's hammer, the amount of electric charge nearby increases sharply by 1 million times, and a large number of electromagnetic pulses affect the anti-Thor armor. If this problem cannot be solved, the anti-Thor armor will never be able to launch an attack on Thor. Wanda and Quicksilver looked at each other, and Ludan and Carlson looked at each other, not knowing what to say. The more innocent Crystal covered her mouth and turned her head away to laugh secretly, not wanting others, that is, Tony, to see it. Captain America, who has always been at odds with Tony, was a little embarrassed because now everyone is in the same group. Tony, do you want to be so embarrassed? In addition, what should we do next? Who will deal with this shocking? Thor? Pepper pursed her lips and thought that the Iron Man armor was indeed unreliable. Tony, let's study the extremis virus carefully. At this moment, Tony was very glad that he didn't take off the mask because his face had turned red and he had never been so red in his life. Jarvis. Tony was a smart man after all, and his mind turned quickly. Tell me which other Mark model can be used. Anti-Hulk armor? Anti-Ghost Rider armor? Anti-Loki armor? Anti-Captain America armor? What? Everyone was stunned and looked at Captain America. Forget the first few. Hulk and Ghost Rider are both anti-heroes who are prone to problems, and Loki is simply a villain. It's okay for you to rebel against them. We have no objection. Anyway, you have money and you can use it however you want. But why do you want to oppose Captain America? Black Widow, Hawkeye and others, even including the Winter Soldier, were a little disappointed and even angry. As soon as you heard it, you knew that those who can be opposed are superheroes or supervillains. So in your heart, Tony, we are not worth opposing. Fitz's voice rang out from the loudspeaker of the Azeroth Iron Soldier, sounding somewhat puzzled. Is there anything Captain Rogers needs to counter? Even if we send out a few Iron Man suits, he can't beat them. Did I say something wrong? The scene was awkward for a while. Not only did Captain America and Tony look unhappy, but Winter Soldier also looked unhappy, and even Carlson, a loyal fan of Captain America, looked cold. Ludan sighed. Young man, you are not only wrong, but also very wrong. You have offended two people at once. No, it should be three. No, it should be who knows how many people. Captain Rogers fans are all over the United States. I didn't realize that you have a strong ability to taunt. Sir, the anti-Hulk armor, anti-Ghost Rider armor, and anti-Loki armor are still in the research and development stage. The anti-Captain America armor has been destroyed in the battle just now. The destroyer was Captain Rogers. Jarvis said, the only one we can still use is the anti-King armor. Captain America's face turned from gloomy to sunny, and it looked much better. Then release the anti-King armor. Tony ordered and hooked his finger. Jarvis, sir, the anti-King armor was damaged in the previous battle and has been sent to Veronica for repair. The repair is complete and it is being launched. The launch is complete and it will arrive at the battlefield in 15 minutes. 15 minutes? How did Veronica run so far? This is trouble. Unable to pretend to be cool, Tony brainstormed and thought about how to delay time. At this moment, Daredevil Matt seemed to feel something and looked up at the sky. Wanda was faster than him and even showed a hint of joy on her face, as if she saw her beloved. Thor followed closely, then Crystal, and then Captain America and others. In the Iron Man suit, Jarvis' voice also sounded at the same time. Sir, a UFO has entered the Earth's atmosphere and is suspended in the exosphere above 500 kilometers. What kind of flying object? Tony asked. Jarvis replied, it's a spaceship. 380 meters long and 22 meters wide at its maximum. It's shaped like a stick, with gold at both ends and red in the middle. There's also a layer of energy shield on the surface that can withstand the high temperatures generated when it penetrates the atmosphere at high speed. Spaceship? Most people's faces became solemn, and they all looked up at the sky. Did the Chitauri attack again and successfully break into the atmosphere? Did Director Wang fail in the space war? If so, then we must fight now, and we have to put the battlefield in the atmosphere. Otherwise, once we reach the surface, I don't know how many people will die. Sir, we should evacuate the citizens immediately. Carlson was about to say something, but Luden's face looked a little strange. Stick-shaped spaceship? This shape is very unsightly, and it can't help but remind people of something. A shameless fat man. At this time, Eve's voice sounded, "Don't panic. It's the starry space mothership Schengen of the Schengen Bureau. Just received the intelligence from Wukong. The space war was a great victory. The Chitauri Expeditionary Force totaling 100,000 meter spaceships, 1,000 biochemical monster transport ships. Hundreds of thousands of biochemical soldiers and individual combat aircraft were wiped out. The Earth is safe." As soon as this was said, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, surprised and happy, and at the same time a little curious. What was surprising was that there were so many Chitauri people. Such a powerful force could probably destroy the entire Earth civilization several times, and the Schengen Bureau could actually defeat them. Is Director Wang so awesome? What was happy was that the Earth was safe, and there was no need to face a tragic war, and human civilization was preserved. What was curious was what the legendary Schengen looked like. Those standing there were all senior officials of the Schengen Bureau or SHIELD, as well as senior officials of the government. They had all heard of the name Schengen, but had never seen its true appearance. Especially Ludan and Ross. One of them is the director of SHIELD, and the other is the Secretary of Defense. Both of them want to know the internal situation of the SHIELD, and even sent undercover agents, many of them. However, Director Wang has done a very good job of keeping the Schengen secret. Anyone who wants to board the Schengen must undergo evaluation tests again and again, sign dozens of confidentiality agreements, and must not disclose any information about the Schengen. The evaluation test method of the SHIELD is very unique. Dozens of undercover agents were all eliminated, not one was left, and then they were asked to ransom people, with a ransom of at least $1 million. I don't know how they did it. Luden suspects it has something to do with brain mapping. So although they know the existence of the Schengen, they don't know what kind of starship it is, how long, wide, and big it is, how many people it can accommodate, what powerful weapon systems it has, how fast it flies, and how high its technological content is. The most curious person is not Ludan and General Ross, but Tony. As the world's top scientist and arms dealer, his love for high technology far exceeds that of anyone else. He never lets go of any new gadgets he sees. In order to delve into science, he sometimes even gives up women and hamburgers. Not for now. A perhaps very powerful starship is docked in the exosphere hundreds of kilometers away from here. If he doesn't take the opportunity to take a look, then he is not called Tony. Do it as soon as you think of it. Iron Man soared into the sky, but just less than 100 meters high, he saw a figure appear out of thin air, holding a set of armor in his hands. The man is Lao Wang, and the armor seems to be another Lao Wang. The same body shape, the same appearance, but the touch is a little different. One is very soft on the surface but very hard, and the other is very hard on the surface but very soft, the kind that can be smashed with a punch. I suddenly encountered this thing in midair. Its flying speed is too slow, so I brought it here by the way. Lao Wang looked at Tony, with a different meaning in his eyes. It looks a bit like me. Tony, shouldn't you explain it? Chapter 402 I agree. Part 3. The atmosphere suddenly became a little weird. Everyone's attention shifted from the cosmic cube and Loki to Lao Wang and Tony. The main conflict now was no longer the conflict between Tony and Thor, but the conflict between Lao Wang and Tony. Even the ownership of the cosmic cube and Loki was not important, because everyone knew, as long as Director Wang was here, Thor would not be able to take Loki and the cosmic cube away easily. or to be more precise, as long as Director Wang stood here, the cosmic cube, and Loki must belong to the Earth, and no one could change this. Captain America, Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Hawkeye and others all remained silent. This kind of thing was not something they should or could get involved in. Luden was silent, and Minister Ross was even more happy to see the joke. When Master Chen saw his sweetheart coming, his flashy face was instantly filled with smiles, and his wrinkled little eyes were invisible, and he pretended to jump into Lao Wang's arms. Grandmaster Chen hurriedly dragged his daughter's hind legs, his face flushed with fatigue, and he couldn't help but regret that he fed his daughter too much when she was a child. Crystal didn't care about anything, and looked at Lao Wang with her beautiful big eyes, with a cute smile on her face. Quicksilver was quick talking, but Wanda was even faster than him. She used chaos magic to gag him, and tie his arms and hands. He couldn't show up at this time. How did this guy get here so quickly? Is it a big deal to be able to teleport? Tony complained in his heart, and muttered in his mouth. Seeing Lao Wang staring at him, he could only point at Thor and said, "Okay, I made it, but it's just to deal with that guy. Don't you want to see yourself beating up that guy? I'm helping you. Don't thank me, it's my duty." Boiled egg. This is the first time I've seen someone with a thicker skin than me. Pepper blushed with shame. Others also looked at him sideways. Today, I learned that not only do you have to be thick-skinned if you want to have power, boiled egg, but you also have to be thick-skinned if you want to be rich. Are you sure that this thing can't roar? Instead of being beaten by Thor, the pharaoh snorted and watched Trot stretch out his hands. Besides, how can I beat Thor? He is my brother. Brother. When he heard this, Thor rushed into the old king's arms and stunned the thunderous hammer and smashed the enthusiasm of Asgard. It hurts, does not hurt. The old king smiled, evacuated the congestion with Kiki, and pushed Thor from his arms. Thor, your brother has caused trouble again. In fact, he was not born to the father. About 8 million people are responsible for 7 billion people around the world. Also responsible for my losses. Jarvis, how much losses add up? Tony asked. Jarvis replied, "Sir, preliminary calculations show that the loss of the Iron Man suit exceeds $10 billion. The loss of Stark Tower is $1.3 billion, and a total of 27 people died, and 143 people were injured. The total loss is about 12 billion. We also need to take into account the mental damages, social impact fees, and medical expenses. Let's make it a round number, 20 billion. Tony reached out to Thor. Give it to me first, and I won't care about this matter. How about this deal? Thor pretended not to hear. Anyway, I have no money. The hammer is my life, and I definitely can't give it to you. Loki is also mine, and no one can take it away. The atmosphere fell into awkwardness again. Now is not the time to talk about this. Lao Wang waved his hand to smooth things over. There are people all over the world taking advantage of the situation to cause chaos. Among them are remnants of Hydra, as well as gangsters such as the Hand and the Ten Rings. The situation is very bad. Director Fury, shouldn't you go and deal with it first? Agent Coulson and Agent Hill will deal with it. Luden was not fooled. He stared at Lao Wang with his one eye. I must deal with the most important thing first. The most important thing is Loki in the cosmic cube, isn't it? Okay, the others can go. Lao Wang looked around. Hurry up and help. Wanda stays, and everyone else goes. Eve, you and Adam will be responsible for coordination and command. Listen to the orders of Agent Hill and Agent Coulson, and grant them temporary A-level authority. Lao Wang spoke, and the others dared not disobey. Luden also issued an order, and the members of the SHIELD left one after another. Only Wanda stayed with Lao Wang, which made Crystal somewhat reluctant. In less than 3 minutes, there were only 7 people left on the top of Stark Tower: Lao Wang, Wanda, Luden, Tony, Minister Ross, Thor, and Loki. Minister Ross. Lao Wang first looked at the military representative who was deeply involved with Dr. Banner. I heard that the Secretary of State died unfortunately, but you and several other ministers survived? I'm very sad that the Secretary of State died unfortunately. Minister Ross's face did not show a trace of sadness. Lao Wang and Luden secretly despised him in their hearts. If the Secretary of State fails, the president will definitely appoint a new person to replace him. Ross has a high chance of taking over. Now is a good time to support the pie transaction, but it cannot be done in front of so many people. It must be done privately. The three looked at each other and smiled tacitly. Let's talk about business now. Lao Wang is very gentle and never strong, but he is far above others in terms of strength and power. The god stick is still floating in the exosphere, and there are still many Azeroth steel soldiers around, so it has become the center of these people. No one dares not to listen to his opinion. Loki is guilty, that's for sure, right? Lao Wang asked. Class A war criminal, Ross said stiffly. But he is my brother. Thor was anxious. Lao Wang waved his hand. I know you don't want Loki to die. I agree with that. Ross frowned. Director Wang, Loki caused many deaths, brought great economic losses to New York and even the whole world, and even political instability. He must pay the price. Otherwise those who died and lost a lot of property will not agree. I know what you mean, but sometimes you have to compromise. Lao Wang pointed to the sky. Odin is watching. Do you want to anger him? If you kill Loki, what do you think Odin will do? Do you want to cause a war between the two worlds and let the people on Earth be buried with Loki? Ross frowned and his whole body tensed. Odin. This is a huge threat. According to Director Wang, Odin has the ability to destroy the Earth. If he is angered, the consequences will be serious. But the problem is, Loki almost killed Odin. Ross got such confidential information from somewhere and said, will he go to war with the Earth for Loki? At least in name, Loki is his son. He can only beat and scold his own son, but if others interfere, that won't work. This will not give Odin face, and Thor and Queen Frigga will not agree. The old king looked at Thor. The queen is not only Loki's adoptive mother, but also his teacher. She has always loved him, right? Thor nodded silently. I feel the gaze of the father and mother. They have been watching Loki. So Loki can't die. The old king glanced at the sky and said lightly, but we can't let him go. Odin wants face, and our Earth also wants face. If we let you take away the main culprit of the war who caused so many deaths, where is the dignity of our Earth? Where is the dignity of the Supreme Sorcerer and me? Brother, Loki. Thor was about to say something, but the old king waved his hand and said, don't worry, I can guarantee his safety. I will imprison him in Kamatage, and the Sorcerer Supreme will personally watch over him. No one will hurt him. I think Odin will agree to this, right? Thor said quickly. Father God will never agree. Before Thor finished speaking, Odin's old voice rang in the minds of several people. I agree. Chapter 403. Let's just leave it like this. Part 1. Asgard, the temple. Odin sat on the throne of the father of the gods, and Frigga sat beside him, looking at him with worried eyes. Opposite them was a bald woman in yellow monk's robes. Bald men in the Marvel universe are not easy to mess with, women are not easy to mess with, and bald women are the hardest to mess with. Looking at the person in front of him, even Odin had a headache, and didn't want to talk. He was about to die, but he was still consuming energy for mental projection. Isn't it tiring? Wouldn't it be good to enjoy his old age quietly? Sorcerer Supreme. Frigga stood up and looked down at Ancient One. Loki is my child. He was bewitched and controlled by Thanos, and had to do this. Please give him a chance. I will educate him well, and will not let him make mistakes again. Queen of the gods, you are my predecessor, and one of the most amazing witches in the universe. Even the mist of time cannot cover your eyes. You can see a corner of the truth about Asgard's future. Ancient One waved his folding fan and said calmly, the prophecy of Asgard has been circulating. Loki is one of the sources of Ragnarok. Do you still want to keep him to destroy Asgard? If the prophecy is destined to happen, then whether Loki is alive or dead will not affect the outcome, and you and I cannot change it. If the prophecy is unreliable, then the content of the prophecy is also unreliable. Who can say that Ragnarok must be related to Loki? Frigga said, I can only see a corner of the truth of the future, but you can see trillions of futures. In the futures you see, how many Lokis will die at this time? How many Lokis will eventually destroy Asgard instead of working for Asgard? The future is not eternal, and we all know who will be the biggest change. Ancient One turned around and cast his eyes on the underworld. Neither of us can convince each other, so let's make a concession. Loki will not die, but he will be imprisoned in Kamatage until Odin and I are dead, and everything that should happen has happened. The new guardian of the earth and the king of Asgard will decide his fate. This is the biggest concession of the earth. Frigga was obviously not satisfied with this result and wanted to continue to fight. At this time, the old king's voice sounded in the temple. Don't worry, I can guarantee his safety. I will imprison him in Kamatage and let the supreme sorcerer personally watch over him. No one will hurt him. I think Odin will agree to this, right? The supreme sorcerer and Frigga looked at Odin together. After a short silence, Odin said, I agree. Odin/Father God agreed. Not only Thor was stunned, but also Ludan, Ross and Tony were stunned. Even Loki was stunned. Odin, who had always been strong, had killed more than one father, had once bloodbathed the 9 realms, and slaughtered countless lives, actually gave in? How could this be possible? Father God. Thor clenched his fists and shouted to the sky, you can't do this. How can you give up Loki? He is your son. Loki is only imprisoned temporarily. His future fate will be decided by you, and the future guardian of the earth. There will only be one future guardian of the earth, and that is the immortal fist. Odin's old voice sounded in Thor's mind. My child, when you were born, the whole of Asgard was echoing your name. You must rule Asgard with wisdom, not force. Use your brain more, not just swinging your hammer. Get along well with the immortal fist. It will help your future. Maybe, he can help you stop Ragnarok. Thor was silent for a while after hearing Odin's words. He is not brainless, but he does not need to use his brain in most cases. After living for more than 1000 years, even a pig should have become a spirit. His wisdom is actually far above that of most humans. He understood what Odin, the king of the gods, meant as soon as he heard it, and he also knew what he should do. Since the Father God has spoken, Loki's fate is already doomed. In this case, the next thing to discuss is another issue, which is also another purpose of his coming to Earth, a more important purpose. Loki can stay on Earth, if you can guarantee his safety. Thor was silent for a few seconds, and said in a deep voice, but the Mind Scepter and the Cosmic Cube do not belong to the Earth, and they must be taken away by me. The Earth has no ability to protect them, and staying here will only bring disaster to you. You have already seen the power of the Chitauri Legion, and it is just a space pirate. In the vast universe, there are civilizations more powerful than the Chitauri, as many as the stars in the sky. As long as these civilizations know that the Cosmic Cube and the Mind Scepter are on Earth, they will definitely take action. Are you ready? Humanity is always prepared, my brother. Lao Wang said, the Earth has existed for 5.6 billion years, and has always been intact. The reason why Odin put the Cosmic Cube on Earth is because the Earth is much safer than you think, even safer than Asgard. You can ask your father about this. Thor asked hurriedly, and got an affirmative answer from Odin. After another silence, Thor said, the Mind Scepter can stay on Earth, but the Cosmic Cube must be taken back to Asgard. The two cosmic treasures cannot be kept in the same place. It's too unsafe. The Mind Scepter has never belonged to Asgard. It is now Wanda's trophy, so it naturally belongs to Wanda. Lao Wang said, as for the Cosmic Cube, you said it belongs to Asgard. What evidence do you have? The Cosmic Cube was placed on Earth by my father Odin. Of course it belongs to Asgard. Thor didn't understand why he doubted it. Was the Cosmic Cube created by Asgard? Lao Wang laughed. Of course. Thor was very sure. This was what was written in the Royal Primary School textbook, and what the teacher taught. The Cosmic Cube has been a part of Asgard since ancient times. He knew this when he was 8 years old, without a doubt. In that case, then you can take the Cosmic Cube away. Lao Wang tilted his head. No. Ludan and Ross objected at the same time. Good brother, thank you. Thor hurried to get the Cosmic Cube. Suddenly, a slightly fat hand blocked his way. You can take the Cosmic Cube, but the things inside the Cosmic Cube must be left behind. They don't belong to Asgard. Lao Wang smiled. What's inside? Thor was stunned, and so were the others. The Cosmic Cube is the Cosmic Cube. What else is inside? Ludan hurriedly asked Tony with his eyes. You have always been in charge of the research work of the Cosmic Cube, and your father was in charge before you. You and your son have been researching for such a long time. Don't you even know that there are other things in the cosmic cube? Or do you know it all the time, but you just don't tell me? That's right. This is the habit of you and your son, two arrogant and conceited men. Tony was even more confused than him. Yes, I'm the person in charge of the cosmic cube, but I really didn't find anything inside. Isn't it just a cube with extremely powerful energy? You can ask Odin. Lao Wang smiled and reminded. Thor asked again. Odin sighed, and an old voice sounded in Thor's mind. Child, the origin of the cosmic cube is more mysterious than you think. Inside it is a real cosmic treasure, a gem that controls the laws of the universe. Even the rainbow bridge was created by it. Thor was stunned when he heard the ancient knowledge uttered by Odin. The cosmic cube was just a shell, and inside the box was a thing called the space stone, which was a polymer of some singularity energy during the Big Bang. Such a cosmic treasure is probably more precious than all the artifacts in Odin's treasury combined, right? In fact, for you, the existence of cosmic treasures has only one meaning, that is, to repair the rainbow bridge. With the power of the rainbow bridge, you can teleport from any place in the universe to another place at any time, right? Lao Wang struck while the iron was hot. How about this? You can take the cosmic cube back to repair the rainbow bridge, but you must return the cosmic cube afterwards. Since it has been on Earth for thousands of years without any problems, then continue to stay. You don't have the ability to protect two infinity stones at the same time. Thor objected. Don't worry about that. They are much safer in my hands than in anyone else's. Lao Wang smiled and said, no one can take the cosmic cube from me. If you don't believe me, ask Odin. Thor, I don't want to ask. Father God, how many things are you hiding from me? At this time, Odin's voice sounded again. That's it. Chapter 404. What's yours and mine? Everything is mine. Part 2. That's it? Ludan, Rose and Tony all breathed a sigh of relief. Being stared at by such a great god, Alexander. Although Thor was very unwilling, he did not want to go against the will of his father, especially when his father would not live for many years. Okay. He reluctantly agreed. Wanda, please escort Loki to Kamataj and hand him over to the Supreme Sorcerer. Lao Wang ordered, then looked at Thor. Why don't you go and take a look together? I'll go. Thor replied. Wanda opened the door and took the two away. Okay, the cosmic cube and the mind scepter are both from Earth, and this matter is perfectly resolved. Lao Wang smiled slightly. Everyone, let's go. He made a gesture to leave. Wait. Ludan and Rose looked at each other, then said, Director Wang, you can go. Please leave the cosmic cube behind. Why? Lao Wang turned back and stared at him with a dangerous look. Because the cosmic cube belongs to S.H.I.E.L.D. Ludan was not afraid of Lao Wang at all and argued, it has been kept in S.H.I.E.L.D. for 70 years and S.H.I.E.L.D. has been conducting research on it. To be precise, my father and I have been researching it. Tony said, other people's research can basically be ignored. It was my father who salvaged it back then, so it actually belongs to me. I think it should belong to the US government. The United States is the country with the strongest scientific research capabilities in the world. Using national power to conduct research is definitely much better than S.H.I.E.L.D. Ross interrupted to show his presence. After 70 years, nothing has been researched. How dare you? Let the Bureau of Divine Officials do the research. Our scientists are much better than yours. Besides, the cosmic cube was taken away by Loki. It was Wanda who got it back, so of course it belongs to me. If you want the cosmic cube, go find Loki. Why are you looking for me? Lao Wang ignored the murderous look in the eyes of Ludan and looked at Tony. Mr. Stark, don't you just want to study the cosmic cube? How about this? As long as you join the Bureau of Divine Officials and serve as a scientific advisor, deputy minister of the Ministry of Science and Technology, or other positions, you can not only study the cosmic cube, but also the mind scepter. How about it? Ludan instantly felt something was wrong. Sure enough, as soon as Lao Wang finished speaking, Tony nodded immediately. It sounds good. Then it's settled. You are always welcome to work at the Azeroth laboratory. Lao Wang took the cosmic cube and disappeared. Jarvis, contact the 3rd Engineering Bureau of China Construction immediately and rebuild the Stark building according to the original drawings. No, I need to modify some places. The lightning rod on the roof must be strengthened. Tony also left. On the top of the huge Stark building, only Ludan and Ross were left, looking at each other. Let's go too. There is no point for the two of them to stay here. There are still many things waiting for them to do. Wait. Ludan looked around. The flying fighter flew away. All the Azerothian soldiers evacuated. Tony and his Iron Man suit had just left. The Stark building was severely damaged. The top 10 floors were in ruins. The elevator must not be used, and the stairs are also blocked. So here comes the question. How should we go down? Asgard, the temple. Thank you for your generosity, King of the Gods. Looking at Odin on the throne, the Ancient One's eyes were calm. Earth and Asgard will live in peace and support each other as they have for thousands of years. That's not what we need to worry about. Leave it to the next generation, Supreme Sorcerer. Odin's voice was full of fatigue. Now, let's do our best to buy them a little more time and maintain peace in the 9 realms. Once we die, Thanos will come to the 9 realms to seize the Infinity Stones. Hela will break free from the seal. Ragnarok will come. Dormammu and other dark forces in the multiverse will make a comeback. And I hope the person you choose can shoulder the burden. Don't get me wrong. Director Wang is not the one I chose. There is an unknown powerful existence behind him. You and I both know this. The Ancient One said, the person I chose will appear soon, and he will continue to protect the Earth from magical invasion. He is better than me, and can see through the mist of time and the truth of the universe. Thor will also be better than me, Odin said. The two looked at each other, calm and composed. After leaving Stark Tower, Lao Wang returned to the Schengen as soon as possible. Black Bolt, Tetanus the big dog and others had already left, and even the dragon Xiao Lao had just transformed into a dragon and ran to China across the ocean to show his presence. Lao Wang let him go without dissuading him. Anyway, now that even aliens have appeared, of course there can be a dragon, and his appearance can also strengthen the confidence of the people of the motherland, and tell people all over the world, we are really descendants of the dragon. This is true. It has been thousands of years since the Kunlun spacecraft landed on Earth. The Kunlun people of all generations have walked out of Kunlun and intermarried with people living nearby. Some of their offspring went to Kunlun, but many of them stayed there. Then, as time went on, they intermarried with more people and spread the blood and genes of the Kunlun people throughout China. So it is not wrong to say that the Chinese have the genes of the Kunlun people. After this battle, the Schengen had very little energy left, so Lao Wang directly left the cosmic cube on the Schengen as an energy core. With it, the energy of Schengen is inexhaustible, and its comprehensive strength will also rise to a higher level. Afterwards, Lao Wang took Sky, Ghost Rider, Hulk and others to leave Schengen and return to the Azeroth laboratory. Not long after arriving at the laboratory, Lao Wang received one call after another. He is the director of the Schengen Bureau, and he is also a witness and supreme commander of this war. All aspects are waiting for his explanation, and they all want to know the details from him. Where did the invading aliens come from, and how strong are they? Why did they come, and how were they defeated? And how can you, who can defeat the aliens, surpass the strength and power, spaceships, and weapons above the world? Those spaceships and weapons, should they belong to you, or to all mankind? Should they be held in your hands, or in the hands of all mankind? Lao Wang knew very well that this was forcing him to show his cards. This war completely exposed the fragility of the Earth, as well as his strength and his trump card. Those in power would certainly be wary of him, because if Lao Wang wanted, he could kill anyone at the pinnacle of power at any time and replace them, or support a puppet. Director Wang, how should you define yourself? Should you put yourself in the right position? It's time. A full week passed, and when the chaos around the world finally subsided, Lao Wang finally set off and came to the United Nations headquarters in New York. A meeting that would determine the fate of mankind had begun. Chapter 405, Subsequent Impact. Third update. This chapter number is so scary. The war is over, but the impact has just begun to ferment. Although the main battlefield is not on Earth, New York, especially near the Stark building, has experienced a war, resulting in many deaths and many buildings being destroyed. Moreover, the thick beam of light emitted by the cosmic cube can be seen from hundreds of kilometers away, and many Chitauri single soldier combat aircraft have flown over. These cannot be hidden from New Yorkers or the whole world. The 21st century is the internet age. Everything that happened in New York has been uploaded to the internet and spread all over the world at the first time. Everyone knows that there are really aliens in this world, and they are coming to attack the Earth. This is not an experiment or an exercise. It is not something that any government or media can cover up. The panic it brings to the people is unprecedented. World War I and World War II were already very terrible. They swept the whole world, affected so many people, and caused countless deaths. But compared with the alien invasion, it is nothing. How cruel are the battles between races and civilizations? Those movies, novels, TV series, and comics have already made it very clear. In the eyes of advanced civilizations, humans are no different from ants. No one would think there is anything wrong with stepping on an ant to death, and no advanced civilization would think there is anything wrong with destroying a surface civilization. Humans do not take ants seriously, will not talk to them, will not negotiate with them, will not talk to them about human rights, civilization and morality. Similarly, aliens will not talk to humans on Earth about these things. The cosmic environment is cruel, dark and cold, just like the Dark Forest. The Marvel universe may not be as cruel as the Dark Forest. There are exchanges and cooperation between civilizations, but there are also killings and destruction. Almost every day, many civilizations are destroyed, and many civilizations are born in some corner of the universe. The civilizations in the vast universe are like the sand on the earth, countless and nothing at all. Lower civilizations must rely on higher civilizations and sign various unequal treaties in exchange for the right to survive in the universe. The Earth has always been very weak. The reason why it has not been invaded by aliens is that the Earth is too weak and the civilization time is too short, and no higher civilization is interested in it. Another reason is that the Earth has always been protected by people, such as Odin and Asgard. Ordinary people don't know this, they only know that aliens are coming. For the whole world, this day is bound to be remembered in history. It is the first year of aliens and the beginning of a new era on Earth. People's hearts are unpredictable. Some people are panicking about aliens, worrying every day whether aliens will invade the Earth again, destroy the Earth, or enslave all humans on Earth. Others think that aliens may not be as scary as they seem, and we can communicate and cooperate with each other. Maybe aliens will help Earthlings develop technology and improve the level of civilization so that we can progress and develop together. Of course, there are always some brain-dead guys who think that aliens are here to liberate the Earth. They clamor all day long to be guides for aliens, and they have never thought about whether they need it. Some people even think that aliens have actually been to Earth a long time ago. They are God, Jesus, and the Olympian gods on Earth. All the gods on Earth come from aliens, and now they are back. Of course, there are different opinions in this regard. Some people think that humans should get rid of aliens, get rid of the so-called gods, and move towards freedom. Others think that humans cannot fight against gods and must accept their rule. There are many different opinions. There are even some people who don't believe in aliens, and there are quite a few such people. They didn't want their ordinary lives to be disturbed. They had long been accustomed to normal life. This sudden change made them unbelievable, so they subconsciously thought that aliens did not exist and everything was fake. Maybe it was a government experiment? More importantly, the US government itself had no credibility. Could it be that everything was a lie made up by the US government to cover up a military experiment or a huge scandal? At this time, the United Nations General Assembly finally ended. No one knew what the content of the meeting was. The participants were not representatives sent by various countries, but the top leaders of various countries. As for the specific content of the meeting, they would only let those who needed to know, and would never spread it casually. 3 days later, a press conference was held after dozens of consultations and finally reached an agreement. At 8 p.m. New York time, all TV programs in the world were cancelled and replaced by the speech of the Secretary General of the United Nations. The speech was long and complicated, but the core content was very simple. After listening to the entire speech, anyone with a normal mind in the world understood what he meant. A brand new world opened up in front of them. The Bureau of God and Shield have always been secret organizations. Although it's not that no one knows about it, there are definitely not many people in the world who know about it, even less than 1,000th. Only elites from all walks of life, high-ranking government officials or personnel from certain special departments know the existence of these two departments and deal with them. But now it's different. This press conference made the Schengen Bureau and SHIELD widely known, and the 7 billion people in the world began to understand. In fact, there have always been two organizations protecting them. In fact, the existence of aliens is not a secret. There has always been an organization called the Schengen Bureau that handles alien affairs, and has established a cooperative relationship with some aliens. And this war was also led by the Schengen Bureau, which successfully repelled the alien attack. As for the work of protecting the Earth itself, it is mainly the responsibility of SHIELD. We are not alone in the universe, and there is no need for us to express fear of those advanced civilizations. We have the ability to protect our own home. We have a group of superheroes who are strong enough and reliable enough, an entire organization. We are fearless. For a time, Lao Wang's voice far exceeded that of any star. The official websites of the Schengen Bureau and SHIELD were open to everyone, and the number of views instantly broke through the sky. Fortunately, with the support of quantum computers, there will be no problems, even if billions of people visit at the same time. All the information that has been screened and determined to be known to the general public can be found. The mysterious Schengen Bureau and SHIELD have lifted their skirts to everyone. The public was in an uproar. For a time, some people scolded and some praised. Of course, many people asked what conditions are required to join the Schengen Bureau and SHIELD, and how to go through the procedures. The key is what the welfare benefits are like, whether there are 5 social insurances, and 1 housing fund, how many days of vacation each year, and most importantly, the ratio of men to women, whether the problem of being single can be solved. None of these are important. The Schengen Bureau has 5 deputy directors, who come from the 5 major member states of the United Nations. What are the deputy directors for? It is to deal with these troublesome matters. As the director, Lao Wang will of course not pay attention to such trivial matters. In addition to these, there are other impacts. Governments of various countries have increased their defense budgets, and the proportions are gradually catching up with the United States, purchasing more powerful weapons, such as the Azeroth Iron Soldier. Azeroth's social network company launched a new game, based on this war, called Chitauri Invasion, which has been strongly supported by governments of various countries, and attracted hundreds of millions of players. It is even more popular than World of Warcraft. Having tasted the sweetness, Sky immediately decided to make the previous Frost Giant Invasion war as a prequel to Chitauri Invasion, and he believed that he could make a lot of money. While making money, it can also help humans understand alien races such as Asgards, Frost Giants, Chitauri, and Kree, and prepare for the Earth to enter the interstellar era. The stock price of Azeroth Group soared, and Lao Wang's wealth also rose. He soon crushed Tony, and became the new richest man in the world. Money is something outside of the body, and Lao Wang has never valued it. At this moment, he has come to another world that is unknown how many thousands of light years away. Chapter 406 Return to Asgard, Part 1. Asgard. 2 years have passed since the last time I came here. At that time, Heimdall exhausted his own power and the remaining power of the Rainbow Bridge to send Lao Wang to Earth. Now, with the cosmic cube in hand, Lao Wang can easily teleport himself and Thor from Earth to Asgard, crossing a distance of unknown light years, once again demonstrating the power of the cosmic cube. If the Rainbow Bridge is compared to the rolling Yangtze River, then the cosmic cube is the vast Pacific Ocean, even larger, deeper and unfathomable than the Pacific Ocean. The Rainbow Bridge is still the same as before, and at the end of it, Heimdall, as the Guardian, holds the sword tightly in both hands, still fulfilling his duties here, using the eyes of God that are closely connected with Asgard, always paying attention to every move in the 9 realms. Your Highness, Immortal Iron Fist. Seeing Thor and Lao Wang coming, Heimdall said in a deep voice, "The King of the Gods is waiting for you." Lao Wang smiled slightly, waved his hand, and a palm-sized crystal bottle flew in front of Heimdall. Thank you for teleporting me to Earth last time. This small gift is not a token of respect. Please do not refuse it," said Lao Wang. Heimdall was silent for a few seconds and put away the crystal bottle. He did not know how many times he had looked at Earth during this period and how many of them were when he was paying attention to Lao Wang. He was not unfamiliar with this crystal bottle. The crystal bottle contained some extremely high level energy, even purer than the power of Asgard, second only to the energy of the cosmic cube. This liquid energy has many magical uses, which are hard to come by. A small bottle is almost worth a divine weapon. Director Wang was so generous, so there was no need for him to refuse. Anyway, Odin saw all of this, and there was no doubt about his loyalty. "Let's go, good brother." Thor was anxious to see his father, so Lao Wang naturally could not stay for long. Although he wanted to chat with Heimdall and tell him that, although the liquid in the bottle was full, 90% of it was pure water, otherwise it would be worth 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, which was too expensive and Lao Wang could not afford it. This was all he had drunk, and now he was so poor that he didn't have a drop of blood. The two left quickly and came to the Temple of Odin. This was the first time that Lao Wang came to the Temple of Odin. The last time, because Odin was still asleep, he was unable to see it. This temple is very magnificent. It uses Asgard's unique stone, and of course also includes some special metal components. Although it is not as precious as Uru, its value is definitely higher than titanium alloy. Not only does it have extremely strong physical defense capabilities, but it also has magical defense capabilities. It uses certain magical materials and engraves a large number of runes on it, making this temple impregnable. Using such stones and metals to build the temple, Asgard's luxury is far superior to that of humans. There are not too many such temples even in the world of Warcraft, and they can be compared with Valhalla. The aesthetic styles of Odin in two different worlds seem to be not much different, and the architectural styles are almost exactly the same. Lao Wang has an inexplicable sense of familiarity, just like returning to his own home. Odin, holding the Spear of Eternity, sat on the innermost throne, and Frigga, the Queen of Gods, sat on a slightly lower seat next to him. There was no one else in the entire temple, even the temple guards stayed outside the door, and no one was allowed to enter casually. When Lao Wang and Thor walked in, the door closed quickly. The unique runes of Asgard separated the inside and the outside. No one could explore the internal information from the outside. It was absolutely confidential. Father of the gods, Queen of the gods. Lao Wang certainly had to express enough respect for this pair of father-level existences who were famous even in the entire universe. In this occasion, it was not convenient for him to release his mental power to detect the status of Odin and Frigga, but just by sensing the energy fluctuations naturally emitted by the two, he could sense their strength. Odin naturally needed no further explanation. He became more and more powerful as he got older. Now the energy fluctuations all over his body were no less than another him in the whole of Valor in World of Warcraft. He was a father-level existence, and even among the father-level existences, he was considered to be the more powerful one. And Frigga, who was sitting next to him, surprised Lao Wang a little. The last time he came here, he carefully sensed Frigga's energy fluctuations. It was roughly the same as Thor's, and was considered to be a relatively powerful one among the gods of Earth. It was somewhat inconsistent with her status as the commander of the Valkyries, the god of war and magic, and the queen of Asgard. At that time, she was not even a match for the Frost King Laufey. It is completely different now. In Lao Wang's perception, the current Frigga is at least 3 or even 5 times stronger than the Frigga at that time. If she fights with Laufey at that time, it is still unknown who will win or lose. Could it be? Lao Wang soon discovered something unusual. There seemed to be an unusual connection between Odin and Frigga. Their divine powers were connected, and their spirits were also connected. The powerful Asgard divine power extended from Odin's body to her body continuously. So that's it. Frigga is not an Asgardian, but a member of the Vanni next door. She is in Asgard, and does not get much divine power from Vanaheim, so her strength has not become stronger with age, but weaker instead. But when Odin woke up, she was connected to Asgard through Odin, which was equivalent to a member of Asgard. She was recognized and supplied with divine power by Asgard, and her strength skyrocketed instantly, reaching a level that matched her status. In other words, Frigga is now actually a sub-father level existence. Although due to her status, she has rarely participated in wars in the past few thousand years, and her strength and level do not match. 10 of her are probably not the opponent of the naked purple potato spirit, but anyway, since she has reached this level, she must be much stronger than most earth gods. Maybe it is enough to be comparable to Doctor Strange, who later obtained the Eye of Agamotto, or even stronger. Immortal Iron Fist. Odin felt annoyed when he saw Lao Wang. Every time he saw him, something bad happened. He really didn't want to say anything more to this earth bandit, so he went straight to the point. By the cosmic cube. Lao Wang chuckled, took out the cosmic cube, and showed it to him, then took back the Heart of Azeroth. Father of the gods, I have a small request. He raised his left hand, pinched his thumb and index finger together, and then loosened the gap of about 1 centimeter. It's a very small request, and I will definitely not make things difficult for you. Odin snorted. He saw through this guy who didn't have the demeanor of master at a glance, and knew that he would never hand over the cosmic cube so easily. He was mentally prepared, so he said, "What's your request?" "It's very simple." Lao Wang said, "Father of the gods, I know that you have also collected infinity stones. You must know a lot about infinity stones, otherwise it would be impossible to use the cosmic cube to create and repair the rainbow bridge. So my request is, can you tell me the ancient knowledge about infinity stones that you know? Father God, have you collected infinity stones?" It was the first time Thor knew this. His eyes widened as he wandered between Lao Wang and Odin, feeling very uncomfortable. How come Director Wang knows more about Father God than I do? Am I Odin's son, or are you Odin's son? At this moment, he couldn't help but make associations. Loki is the son of Frost King Laufey, the adopted son of Odin and Frigga. I'm the son of Odin and Mother Earth Jaia, the adopted son of Frigga. So here comes the question. Who is the biological son of Odin and Frigga? Balder, the god of light, Heimdall, the god of speed, and Tyr, the god of war. All three died in the previous war. Could it be that they actually have a son that no one knows about? Standing next to them, Thor looked at the old king with a strange look in his eyes. I, Thor, besides my half-brother Loki, also have a half-brother? Chapter 407 Repairing the Rainbow Bridge, Part 2. Odin communicated with Frigga telepathically, and after a minute he said, "I agree." Frigga smiled and raised her hand, and a simple and ancient book appeared in her hand, which looked very valuable. This is the Book of Infinity. All the knowledge we know about the Infinity Stones is recorded in it, without any omissions. Frigga waved her hand, and the Book of Infinity floated in front of Lao Wang. Lao Wang hurriedly looked over. The pages of the book were written in Asgardian characters that he couldn't understand at all, and the same was true after he opened it. Put your hand on it, and it will know to display the text according to the language you know. Frigga explained with a smile. Lao Wang hurriedly did as he was told. Sure enough, lines of Chinese characters appeared on the pages of the book, and the ancient knowledge about the Infinity Stones was presented to Lao Wang one by one. This book is not easy to make, so I can't give it to you. Frigga reminded, you can only read it here. Believe in your mental strength, you will be able to finish reading it all soon. Lao Wang nodded. This is true. With a strong mental power, memory and comprehension will be greatly enhanced. Even if it is a large book, he can remember it all in a very short time. If he wants to, he can even use mental imprinting to imprint all the contents in his mind, like taking a photo, and call it directly when needed. People have said so. Lao Wang is not greedy. It's just a book. At most it is the level of the Dark God book, and the value does not exceed 100 grams of Azeroth's blood. Lao Wang doesn't care. It is called the Book of Infinity, but in fact the content recorded is mainly related to the Cosmic Cube and the ether particles. The Cosmic Cube contains the Space Stone, and the ether particles are another way of expressing the Reality Stone. These are also the two Infinity Stones that Odin has obtained, so he naturally knows more about them. Lao Wang read carefully and found that Odin did think about collecting all 6 Infinity Stones, and his understanding of the Space Stone and the Reality Stone was beyond his imagination. especially the space stone, which had been in his hands for a long time, and his understanding of it may be second only to Thanos. The reality stone was hidden on Earth by Odin's father, Borg, long before Odin ascended the throne. Although there are some relevant knowledge records, seeing is believing. Odin knows a little less about it than the space stone. In addition, the Book of Infinity also records some knowledge about the Eye of Agamotto, or the Time Stone. Odin has a good relationship with the first generation supreme sorcerer Agamotto, so he should have obtained it from him. As for the Power Stone, Mind Stone, and Soul Stone, Odin has never seen them, and only has a simple understanding of them, which is of little significance to the old king. An hour later. Thank you, Father of the Gods, Queen of the Gods. The old king returned the Book of Infinity to Frigga, then took out the cosmic cube, handed it to Odin through the air, and carefully reminded him, remember to return it after use. Even with Odin's calmness in his later years, he couldn't help but snort. The dignified king of the gods, a dying god, who took the initiative to abandon the cosmic cube back then, how could he be greedy now? Moreover, at his level, unless he collects all 6 infinity stones, it is meaningless, and it is easy to cause trouble for Asgard. The father is not invincible. There are many beings of the same level in the universe, and some advanced civilizations' top weapons are also capable of killing the father. People, the older they get, the more timid they become. Odin is not afraid of death, but he is afraid of destroying his beloved Asgard. It is better not to offend someone like the immortal Iron Fist who does not have the demeanor of master. Besides, there is a supreme sorcerer who is capable of dying with him behind him. Come with me. Odin was too lazy to talk to Lao Wang, and went directly to the Rainbow Bridge. The cosmic cube floated in front of him, and the surrounding space changed immediately. This was originally one of the most important nodes of the World Tree, with countless wormholes and jump points. Because of the rupture of the Rainbow Bridge, these wormholes and jump points collapsed and were destroyed, and the space here became chaotic, with space folds, space faults, and space fragments everywhere. Even if the Hulk was thrown in, he would probably die there, and could not bear it at all. And now, under the manipulation of the cosmic cube, the folded space reopened, the broken space reconnected, and the damaged world tree slowly repaired. Really slowly. Odin kept his hands raised high, standing for 3 days and 3 nights. Frigga accompanied him. Although Thor wanted to go to the 3 warriors to drink, he couldn't leave for such an important matter. He could only send a message to the 3 warriors and ask them to bring the wine over and drink it on the Rainbow Bridge. The goddess Sif, who got the news, also ran over and looked at Lao Wang with a complicated look. She is Heimdall's sister and often begged Heimdall to help her check the earth, mainly to check on Lao Wang. Lao Wang had been hooking up with and had been hooked up by several women during this period, and she knew it clearly. Men. Sif's ears echoed with the words of the Queen of Gods Frigga. Men are really unreliable. Whether it is Odin or Director Wang, they are all dead. Forget it. I'd better stay single, or I can find a girl. The enchanting witch Amora has come to me several times, and she has actively asked for it. How about, give it a try? Lao Wang was dragged by Thor to drink, and soon he drank Thor and the 3 warriors, who were known as the Asgard Barrel, and then he got Sif drunk, and sent her back to her room, and then came back to chat with Heimdall. Heimdall is a steady person, but he is quite boring, and doesn't like to chat. Most of the time, Lao Wang is the one who talks. Later, when he said that there was really no topic, Lao Wang had to sit cross-legged and meditate hard. When he ran 3856 big cycles, the world tree was finally repaired. Pieces of colorful fragments flew out of the void storm and connected to the Rainbow Bridge. Under the mobilization of the cosmic cube, the power of the world tree flowed to the Rainbow Bridge and repaired the fracture. After another day and night, this divine bridge that connects the 9 realms and even countless galaxies was finally restored. Odin's power fluctuated, and his mind was not stable. It was obvious that this repair had brought him a great burden. Even a powerful godlike god could not bear it. He looked tired, and Frigga beside him looked at him with a worried look. This made Lao Wang wonder. Odin, who was not going to live for many years, would not shorten his life again, and then sleep again. Odin raised his hand, and the cosmic cube flew in front of Lao Wang. Lao Wang hurriedly checked it, and it was real. Odin did not use any tricks to replace it, and it also absorbed a lot of cosmic energy. Odin was really kind. Immortal Iron Fist, you can go now. Frigga was as gentle and generous as ever. The rainbow bridge is being repaired. We must deal with the chaos in the 9 realms as soon as possible. We don't have time to entertain you. You are welcome to visit Asgard when you have time. Lao Wang looked at Odin meaningfully and wanted to say that I have time now and it is no problem for me to stay here for a few years. Sure enough. What do you mean by no time to entertain? It's pure nonsense. The 9 realms are in chaos, but the strong ones in the 9 realms have basically been killed by Odin. Thor is enough for the rest. Even Surtur, who lost the eternal flame, is not his opponent. What is there to worry about? The real reason is probably that Odin is going to sleep and is worried about something happening, so he wants to block Asgard and not allow any outsiders to stay, right? This is boring. I'm one of you, why don't you trust me? Thor, Sif, Heimdall, and the 3 warriors, welcome to visit Earth when you are free. Lao Wang waved goodbye. The cosmic cube flashed, and Lao Wang came to Kamataj. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 408 You Hurt Me. Third update. When he came to Kamataj, the first person Lao Wang saw was not someone else, but a fat man who was about the same size as himself. He instantly felt like looking in the mirror. Wang, the librarian of Kamataj. It is said that librarians are hidden professions, and they must be masters among masters, and the same is true for Fatty Wang. Kamataj has its own set of level divisions. The lowest is the Mystic Apprentice. All of them have studied hard in Kamataj. After several years or even decades of training, they have successfully mastered spells including magic whips, magic shields, portals, mirror spaces, and combat skills such as fighting techniques, before they can be promoted to Mystic Masters. Mystic Masters are the mainstay of Kamataj, and there are not many of them, probably only 1/10 of the Mystic Apprentices. In fact, there are not many Mystic Masters who stay in Kamataj. Some of them are assigned to the 3 major temples after graduation, and some are distributed all over the world, exorcising demons and solving frequent magic problems. A higher level is the Mystic Master. There are not many Mystic Masters in Kamataj, and you can count them on 10 fingers. The guardian wizards of the 3 holy temples are all masters of arcane magic, followed by Baron Mordo, Mage Hamel, and the fallen Cassilis. Fatty Wang is one of them. He is quite powerful. In addition, if Lao Wang remembers correctly, Fatty Wang should be the best kung fu master in the entire Kamataj, except for the Ancient One. He is a kung fu master and has super fighting ability. You can tell from his body shape. When fellow villagers meet, their eyes are filled with tears, not to mention that they are from the same family. Fatty Wang has always been good to Lao Wang, and a rare smile appeared on his old face. The Supreme Sorcerer knows you are coming, so he asked me to wait for you here. Come with me. He turned and left. Lao Wang hurriedly followed. Kamataj doesn't look big, but there is actually something else inside. The 2 walked forward and soon came to a secret room. The Ancient One and Wanda stood at the door. Wang, with the teacher next to her. Wanda didn't want to be too intimate, so she called Lao Wang sweetly, with a smile in her eyes and eyebrows. Wang, thank you very much. Ancient One was always very polite to the Master of Secret Magic. You can go now. Fatty Wang was very honest. He did whatever the teacher asked him to do. He was not very curious, and turned around and left. Grandmaster Wang. Ancient One looked at Lao Wang. Do you want to get the ancient knowledge about the Infinity Stones that Superstar and Loki have? Nothing can be hidden from you, Supreme Sorcerer. Lao Wang glanced at the Mind Scepter in Wanda's hand and smiled. Only by mastering that knowledge can we deal with Thanos and Dormammu. Thanos is not difficult to deal with, but the Infinity Stones can't deal with Dormammu. He is outside the universe, and no power in this universe can affect him. Ancient One glanced at the necklace on Lao Wang's chest and said meaningfully, of course, maybe you can. I'll try my best. Lao Wang didn't dare to guarantee it. After all, Dormammu is a Void Lord, and it's not so easy to deal with. I believe you. Ancient One turned around, and the door opened automatically. Come with me. This is a large room, full of spell runes, and there are several magic weapons that look quite good at first glance, which seem to be artifact level. There was no one inside. Where are the Supergiant and Loki? Lao Wang released his spirit and soon noticed something unusual. There seemed to be another space hidden here, which was difficult to detect with his mental power. If he hadn't just obtained the relevant knowledge of the cosmic cube, he might not have been able to find it. Mirror space? He asked. Grandmaster Wang has a good eye. Ancient One was a little surprised. The Supergiant's telepathic ability is very strong. Only the combination of artifacts and mirror space can isolate it. Loki is a master of secret magic, and only this method can prevent him from escaping. Lao Wang agreed. The effects of these artifacts are generally related to the stability of space, making the mirror space unbreakable. Even if there is a hanging ring, it directly prohibits teleportation and various forbidden magics. No energy can enter it. No matter how capable Loki is, his energy has been drained, and his connection with Asgard and Jotunheim has been cut off. He still can't play tricks. Wanda, I will give you some knowledge of the Mind Scepter first. Lao Wang stretched out his hand and pointed, turning the knowledge he got from the Book of Infinity into a divine thought, drilling into Wanda's mind. A few minutes later, Wanda nodded obediently. Wang, I know everything. So this is how the Mind Scepter is used. She was about to try it. Lao Wang hurriedly stopped her. The Supreme Sorcerer has nothing to do with me. Others can't bear the power of the Mind Scepter. You should practice more in the mirror space and come out after you have practiced well. Wanda nodded heavily. I can do it. Gu pinched the magic formula with one hand, and a portal appeared. The three walked into it and came to the mirror room. As soon as they came in, they saw Superstar and Loki. Hey, Director Wang. You are Thor's brother, and I'm also Thor's brother, so I'm your brother. For the sake of brotherhood, let me go. Loki was probably really desperate. This prison built specifically for him was even more terrifying than the death row in Asgard. He tried hundreds of methods, but he couldn't get out, and no one sent him food. He couldn't do anything if he wanted to play tricks. No one cared about him, and no one sympathized with him. Now seeing Lao Wang, it was like seeing his own father, and he placed all his hopes on Lao Wang. HMPH, spineless. The superstar stood on the other side, his posture and expression as arrogant as ever, disdaining Loki's weakness. How dare you catch me? You have offended my master Thanos. The superstar stared at Lao Wang, Ancient One and Wanda, threatening, if you don't let me go, wait for the master to destroy the earth. Ancient One was calm as usual. Thanos, is it great? If it weren't for her current physical condition, once she left the earth and the three major temples, her strength would be greatly reduced. In addition, Thanos was very cunning and could not be found in the vast universe. He would have been destroyed long ago to help the earth and future generations get rid of the trouble. Lao Wang smiled slightly. Maybe, but you may not be able to wait for that day. What do you mean? The superstar felt something was wrong. Nothing, just reminding you to be mentally prepared. What we are going to do next may cause you extreme discomfort, but I believe that with your mental will, you can get through it. In fact, it is not as uncomfortable as you imagine. Just bear with it, and it will pass. Lao Wang turned his head and looked at Wanda. Let's get started. I will be here with you. You can't do this alone. He sat cross-legged and circulated the great circulation of heaven. He actually treated this place as a secret room and practiced in seclusion. Ancient One smiled and left quietly. The portal closed and Wanda raised her staff. Sorry, this is my first time. It may be a little painful, but it won't hurt after a few times. Of course, it may be itchy and you will feel bored afterwards. I can't do anything about this. You are all experts in this field. You should know that this is difficult to avoid. Wanda explained with a little apology, and the tip of the Mind Scepter pressed against Loki's heart, emitting an amber light that enveloped him. What are you going to do? Loki hurriedly tried to escape. Lao Wang undressed, and the crimson magic belt became longer and bigger, binding Loki tightly all over his body. Even his mouth was blocked, looking like a red mummy. The power of the Mind Staff invaded his body and fought with his mind. You don't come in. Don't. Loki quickly mobilized all his strength to block it. He had no magic power. He had lost the connection with Asgard and Jotunheim. The only thing he could do was to fight with his own mental will and soul power. Unfortunately, in front of Wanda and the Mind Staff, his mental will was nothing at all. At most, it was just a thin membrane that would break with a poke. His soul was as huge as a small earth slope, but how could it resist the power of the Mind Staff like the Yangtze River bursting its banks? The next moment, he fell into an illusion. He was a master of illusion, but he still couldn't resist the invasion of the Mind Staff. His memory was retrieved and turned into a huge illusion, and Lao Wang, Wanda and himself also appeared in the illusion, watching, but unable to make any changes to the illusion itself. Come on, let's take a look at your past together. Lao Wang patted Loki on the shoulder. Let's see what embarrassing things you have done in your life, such as peeping at the widow taking a bath, stealing pocket money and so on. That was all done by you. Okay, I know you won't kill me, but Wanda, your method is too bad. You hurt me. Loki spread his hands helplessly, his eyes sincere. If you don't know how, I can teach you. I'm an expert in stealing memories. Chapter 409 You Are Mine. First update. Loki's 1,000-year life flashed by. He threatened Thor with a poisonous snake, almost biting him to death, and was beaten half to death by Odin. He cut off Sif's hair while she was asleep and used magic to prevent her from growing new hair, and then had to get rid of the dwarf king Eitri and created soft and shiny black hair for Sif. He was imprisoned by the enchantress Amora for 3 days and 3 nights, and since then he has lost interest in women. The only one who can attract him is his brother Thor. He learned magic, made trouble in various postures, colluded with the frost giants, met with Thanos, and finally got to the point. In order to let Loki open the portal, Thanos not only gave him some ancient knowledge of the Mind Scepter, but also the Cosmic Cube. Of course, Thanos will definitely keep it to himself, and only told Loki a very small part of it. The part about the Cosmic Cube basically overlaps with the Infinity Book, which is not very useful. The knowledge related to the Mind Scepter is not much, but at least it is much more than the Infinity Book, which will be of some help to Wanda. This is not brain mapping, but using his own mental power as energy to create an illusion, and then in a very short time, he lived through thousands of years of life again, which consumed his mental energy much more than any other time. It is similar to drinking a lifetime of coffee in one day. No one wants to have such an experience a second time. What did you do to him? Seeing Loki's fate, the superstar began to panic and retreated involuntarily, all the way to the corner, feeling so lonely and helpless, like a frightened cuckoo cat. But it was useless. This mirror space is so small, where can he run to? Stop struggling. What's coming will eventually come. What's the difference, if it's sooner or later? A bad uncle-like smile appeared on Lao Wang's face. Let me tell you, this kind of thing is like being shown dog food in front of you. Since there is no way to resist, just obey it obediently, and you can suffer less. Loki, don't you think so? At this moment, Loki had obviously recovered a little. He struggled to get up from the ground, and looked at the superstar with sympathy. Really, I don't think you really need to resist. It's useless to resist anyway. You might as well cooperate. This little girl named Wanda is clumsy and it hurts me so much. If you resist, it will not only hurt, but you will bleed and sacrifice. Think about it. If you die miserably, how sad will your father Thanos be? He sighed. If he is really sad, it's fine. He still deserves you. If he is not sad at all, then how miserable you are. This life is meaningless. Give up. The smile on Loki's face was a little weird. He and Superstar were just partners. Now that the matter was over, he was in such a miserable situation, and he couldn't let his companions have an easy time, right? Everyone shared the good and the bad. Such a rare experience, of course, must come once. In the past, he stole other people's memories, and now someone else is stealing their memories. It's time to get along. Who told you to treat me badly? Hearing Loki's words, Superstar's face was very ugly. His pair of starry eyes stared straight at Loki, full of hatred. If eyes could kill, Loki would have died 100 times. Look, your companions have said so. Why are you still struggling? Come on, just accept your fate. Hurry up, I haven't eaten for 3 days. Lao Wang ordered, and Wanda hurriedly did as he was told. It was still the same process, but Superstar was obviously not as obedient as Loki. After all, he was young, and couldn't see the situation. After a fierce struggle, there was a painful scream, and blood began to flow from all 7 orifices. As time went by, the screams slowly disappeared. Her strong constitution allowed her body to heal automatically. This process was inevitably accompanied by unbearable itching. If it weren't for the crimson magic belts that bound her hands and feet, her delicate skin would have been scratched by now, which would have been bad. Looking at the supergiant whose body was constantly twisting on the ground and changing into 108 postures, Loki's expression was sunny. The more Loki thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. I heard that Thanos likes women very much, and they are of all races. He plays with everything. The whole universe is full of his offspring. He wants to spread the universe. You are his intimate female secretary, you won't. He looked up and down, and the supergiant's face looked uglier than before. It seems so. Loki stared at the supergiant's belly. How many children did you give birth to him? The supergiant's face dimmed instantly. It's really not my fault. What can I do if I can't get pregnant? I have tried very hard. I think it's Thanos who doesn't want you to have a baby. Otherwise, with his powerful genes, racial segregation shouldn't exist at all. Loki seemed to be very experienced and continued to add, why didn't he let you have a baby? Because pregnant women have low combat effectiveness, and women who have given birth don't want to fight everywhere. He wants you to maximize your value. Thanos doesn't see you as a woman, but a weapon to kill. Every word was like a knife, stabbing the superstar. Did he really think so? With his personality, I'm afraid it's true. Unprecedented despair and confusion occupied her heart. The whole world was dark, and there was no light in sight. I tried so hard to follow you and please you, and in the end, this is what I got? Loki, it's good to live with your eyes blindfolded. Why do you want me to see the truth? I'm going to kill you. Her eyes were blurred, and the terrifying power of her mind swept towards Loki. Crazy woman. Loki snorted, not afraid at all. I rested for so long, and my mental state has long recovered. I have lived for 1,000 years, and my soul is stronger than yours. The physique of Asgardians is stronger than that of Kree people, not to mention that I'm a frost giant with a stronger physique. How is it? Have you remembered everything? Lao Wang was too lazy to pay attention to the two people, and looked at Wanda. If you don't remember, do it again. Superstar and Loki froze instantly. Little girl, you must remember it. We really don't want to have such an experience again. Well, I remember everything. It's very simple. Wanda nodded obediently. That's good. Lao Wang smiled. Let's go. The two left the room, and Loki immediately walked towards Superstar. A dagger appeared in his hand, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. Do you know why you were locked up together? Do you know why you, who are no longer valuable, were not killed by him on the spot? Because he left you to me. Superstar curled up in the corner, not even knowing how to resist. It's meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Then let my miserable life end here. Thanos, when I die, will you remember me? Or will you forget me one day in the future? Temple second. Sitting on his own floating throne, Thanos stared at the galaxy in the distance and listened to Nebula's report. Father, Carol Danvers is on a planet 510,000 light years away from here. She has been fighting against the Kree Empire, and her strength is very strong. Nebula opened a document and showed it to Thanos. It was a video of Carol Danvers' battle. She easily destroyed an entire Kree Empire fleet, and such a fleet could completely destroy 100 Chitauri spaceships and any planetary civilization without any losses. Such an existence, I definitely can't deal with it, and going there is tantamount to suicide. I will deal with her personally. Thanos said, go find Gamora, and help Ronan find the Power Stone with her, and bring it back to me. Yes, father. Nebula stood up and left. Thanos still stared at the vast galaxy, but his brows were slightly frowned. The superstar is dead. Only 4 of my 5 obsidian generals are left. Then let Carol Danvers be buried with her. Chapter 410 Azeroth Supreme Council, Part 2. Lao Wang doesn't need to borrow anyone's hand to kill anyone. The reason why he left the superstar to Loki was just for convenience. The current superstar has no value. Let Thanos prepare money to redeem people. It's impossible. Loki is right. People like Thanos are far more cold-blooded and ruthless than anyone else. He even abandons his relatives, friends, parents, and children. What about a mere superstar? Since it has lost its value, it still needs to be fed. The end of the superstar can be imagined. Of course, her body is barely worth some money. It's less than 1 gram of Azeroth's blood. There is no need to exchange it. Just throw it to Simmons for a search and squeeze out the surplus value. After all, she is a Kree transformed by Thanos, and her abilities are mostly related to the Mind Scepter. Maybe after research, she can get relevant knowledge to help Wanda become stronger. At least for now, Wanda's telepathic ability is not as good as that of a superstar. Even though the superstar had been hungry for such a long time and was extremely weak, Wanda relied on the power of the Mind Staff and Lao Wang's mental shock to successfully invade the superstar's mental world and steal her memory. Supreme Sorcerer. Looking at the Ancient One who was waiting at the door with a smile, Lao Wang also smiled and said, "I'll take Wanda away first. If you need anything, just tell us. We'll be there at any time. Has your successor not come yet?" He is still Doctor Strange now, but the trajectory of the future tells me that he will be here soon. The Ancient One nodded slightly. "You have offended Dormammu and obtained 2 more Infinity Stones. I'm afraid your future life will not be easy. Ghost Rider is involved with Mephisto, and he is also watching you. In addition, you have Sitorak's Crimson Belt on your waist. The news of the Infinity Stones will soon spread throughout the universe. The Kree Empire and the Shire Empire will not let you go. You have to be careful. Thanos, Ronan, the Kree Empire, the Shire Empire, Dormammu, Mephisto, Sitorak. Provoking so many powerful beings at once. Even the Ancient One has a headache just thinking about it. And judging from what Grandmaster Wang said, will he continue to provoke him? Ancient One suddenly doubted his decision. Was it the right decision to pull him onto Kamataj's chariot? "You are still here. Who dares to go wild on Earth with you here?" Old Wang laughed, and Ancient One smiled. "I don't have much time left, and Odin won't have much time either. You know very well what kind of impact our death will have." Ancient One said, "Grow up as quickly as possible. I hope it's not too late. My connection with this universe is about to be severed, and the rest depends on you." Old Wang and Wanda said goodbye and returned to the Azeroth laboratory. With the Mind Scepter and the Cosmic Cube, of course they must be fully utilized. Old Wang has no idea of breaking them and taking out the Infinity Stones for the time being. The cube and the scepter are equivalent to a layer of shackles that limit the power of the gems themselves, allowing ordinary people who are not so powerful to contact and study them. And if you want to study the gems themselves directly, it's too difficult, and a careless mistake will cause a disaster. The reason why Wanda was called here was, on the one hand, because her telepathic ability might be enhanced through further experiments, and she needed to cooperate with the research, and on the other hand, it was to prevent such things from happening. The Cosmic Cube is fine. After all, it has always been on Earth, and has never been touched by Thanos. The Mind Scepter was obtained by Thanos a long time ago, and who knows if he has tampered with it. In Lao Wang's memory, the birth of Ultron in Avengers 2 was actually not Tony's fault at all, and the real mastermind behind it was Thanos. We still have to be on guard, and only Wanda can do this. Dun Huang, call all the people with A-level permissions in the laboratory to come for a meeting. Lao Wang said. The laboratory has a large conference room that can accommodate hundreds of people for a meeting at the same time. Some people are far away, as far as Europe. Tens of thousands of kilometers away. Although there are flying fighters to pick them up, it will take some time. 3 hours later, everyone came to the conference room. There are not many people with A-level permissions. They are all the leaders of the laboratory. They can be counted on one's fingers. Sky, Dr. Leo Fitz, Dr. Gemma Simmons, Dr. Bruce Banner, Dr. Betty Ross, Dr. Hank Pym, Dr. Eric Shavig, Dr. Jane Foster. Apart from them, others have at most B-level permissions. For example, Spider-Man, Miss Daisy, and those world-renowned first-class scientists. It is very difficult to obtain the authority of the Bureau of God and Azeroth Group. For ordinary people, it is not easy to get D-level authority. It is rare. C-level authority requires academic leaders, well-known scientists, middle-level management, or some superheroes with good abilities. B-level authority, except for those who have connections and backdoors like Spider-Man, is only available to first-class scientists, senior officials, and very powerful superheroes. Everyone attaches great importance to this meeting. Meetings of this level have not been held a few times in total. Director Wang/President Wang is a qualified hands-off boss. Apart from the general direction, he doesn't care about anything else, and it is even more impossible to hold meetings. Scientists like Dr. Eric and Jean who work in other places, although they have A-level authority, have not seen Lao Wang for almost 2 years, and their feelings have faded. Now a filet meeting is suddenly held. Obviously something big has happened. Everyone sat upright and looked at Lao Wang who was sitting at the top. I called you here because I have a few things to announce. Lao Wang snapped his fingers, and Dan Huang immediately called up the relevant information and appeared on the projection platform in the center of the conference room in a 3-dimensional projection mode. The first thing is an appointment. Lao Wang said, Mr. Tony Stark will join Azeroth Laboratory as a scientific consultant in all fields, and he will only be responsible to me. He has something to do and cannot come here for the time being. Everyone applaud and welcome him. As soon as the voice fell, Tony's projection appeared. It's an honor to work with you all. Dr. Banner, your anti-electronic paper is well written. Dr. Pime, I heard that you and my dad don't get along. Dr. Eric, your astronomical research is great. He talked non-stop and greeted everyone, which was different from usual. This person is like this. He disdains ordinary people. But his attitude towards top scientists is okay. Of course, it can only be considered okay. In his heart, he is the most awesome, and others are at most sheep. Listen over there, Tony. Lao Wang waved his hand, and Tony's projection landed on the seat next to him. The second thing is to set up a laboratory with the highest level of confidentiality, called the Infinity Gem Laboratory, to study them. The Cosmic Cube and the Mind Scepter appeared and floated in the air. Then, Dan Huang's ethereal voice sounded. The Infinity Gems are refined from the essence of the Big Bang, and are almost the most powerful objects in the universe. They are the Time Gem, the Space Gem, the Power Gem, the Reality Gem, the Mind Gem, the Soul Gem. Everyone listened carefully, and remembered every word in their hearts. Except for Lao Wang, Sky and Wanda, no one else knew about this, and it felt very fresh and shocking. Although it sounds like the settings in movies and comics, they are all top scientists, and know that the universe is very mysterious. The imagination of scientists and the magic of science itself are actually far beyond the description of science fiction writers. Reality is always more wonderful than fantasy. The ideas proposed by some scientists are far more powerful and difficult to understand than the Infinity Gems, but they have not been confirmed. The inside of the Cosmic Cube is the Space Gem, and the head of the Mind Scepter is the Mind Gem. Lao Wang said, everyone here will join the Infinity Gem Laboratory, and then you will select capable scientists as assistants to study them. Tony will be the director of the laboratory, and Dr. Banner will be the deputy director. Tony was obviously very satisfied with this position, but Dr. Banner didn't understand me. I don't understand these at all. Space and mind are not my majors. Super Soldier Serum and Gamma Rays are more suitable for me. Gamma Rays are the highest energy rays in the universe, and the main energy emitted by the Space Gem and the Mind Gem is actually Gamma Rays. Lao Wang said, Drive Banner, you are the most suitable candidate. Chapter 411 Thor's Expedition, Part 3. Okay. Dr. Banner said helplessly, as long as I don't have to take care of children in kindergarten or feed small animals in the zoo, anything is fine. Betty pinched Dr. Banner's arm. Children are good, and small animals are good too. Her biggest dream now is to have a child. Of course, the physiological problem must be solved first. Lao Wang pretended not to hear and continued. There are 2 research directions now. One is to conduct human experiments. There have been some results in this regard. Wanda and Pietro are good examples. They will also cooperate with the experiments, of course. The premise is to ensure their safety. Like the Super Soldier Serum, Simmons raised his hand slightly. It's different. The super soldier serum is an enhancement of human genes, which shortens the process of human evolution. Lao Wang said, and the Infinity Stones will directly change human genes. In essence, Wanda and Pietro are no longer human beings, but two unique races, which is somewhat similar to Dr. Banner's situation. One person is a race, the others were thoughtful, and Dr. Banner looked bitter. Yes, I'm no longer a human being, I'm not a human being. Lao Wang still ignored him and continued, the second research direction is infinite energy. Tony has a say in this. My father and I have been conducting research in this area. The current energy source of the arc reactor is the isotope of the cosmic cube. Tony spread his hands and said, SHIELD has also been conducting research in this area, but there has been no progress. You know, since my father died, SHIELD has not had a decent scientist until I joined. Well, don't look at me like that, you two are not bad. He was talking about Fitz and Simmons. To be called not bad by him, they must be at least first-class scientists, and there are not many people in the world who are qualified. Simmons felt a little better. Fitz asked quickly, even SHIELD and Mr. Stark have no research results. This is too difficult, can we do it? Fortunately, I have obtained some relevant knowledge from certain channels, which may be helpful to your research. Lao Wang said, all the information has been uploaded to Dunhuang. You all have the right to read it. Be careful not to spread it. Fitz, who was a little depressed, thought of the Dark Book when he heard this. Could it be knowledge similar to the Dark Book? That's great. In addition, you can also propose new research directions, such as wormholes, hyperdrives, jump points, energy barriers, mental barriers, etc., or joint research with super soldier serum. It's up to you, but all research topics must have a complete application, and I will personally evaluate it. Lao Wang said, the third thing, Tony hopes to get the help of Dr. Banner and Dr. Simmons to conduct a joint study of super soldier serum and extremis virus. I have discussed with him, and think it is more appropriate to include this research in the super soldier project, and he will be responsible for this project together with the two doctors. That's great. Simmons was very happy. There are too many things to study in the super soldier project. In essence, it is a study of human evolution, and there is no end. Although Dr. Banner is helping, he is still too busy. Now that another top scientist has joined, he will definitely be able to share a lot of pressure. How to arrange the specific time is up to you. Lao Wang said, my requirements are, first, we must pay attention to the height. The degree of catalysis of super soldier serum on human evolution needs to be further improved. Captain Rogers should not be the end of human evolution, but just a milestone. Second, we must focus on popularization. Humans should not only have superheroes, but should evolve as a whole nation, and everyone is a superhero. Humanity is not ready yet. Tony crossed his legs and said disapprovingly, if everyone's physical fitness is the same as that American soldier, the world will definitely be a mess. It doesn't say that it should be done in one step, you can take it slowly. Lao Wang said, for example, it can be divided into several stages. The first stage has a general strengthening effect on the human body, the second stage is better, and so on. Then it will be linked to the credit system, criminal records, etc., and everyone will be evaluated in all aspects. Only those who meet the requirements in all aspects can be injected with a serum of the corresponding stage. The specific operation will be discussed later. Humans cannot stop eating because of choking. Any change will have pain, even bloodshed and sacrifice, accompanied by the death of many people. This is absolutely unavoidable. The only thing we can do is to make the labor pain shorter and the pain weaker. The human race is in a very dangerous situation, being targeted by so many powerful beings and powerful forces. If we don't evolve quickly, the consequences will only be worse. This is the best choice. The fourth thing is to officially start the research on the second generation space mothership and aircraft. Lao Wang said, this time we seized a lot of Chitauri spaceships, troop transports, single soldier combat aircraft, and biochemical soldiers. Study the Chitauri technology as soon as possible, combine it with our existing technology, and transform the ships and aircraft. Fitz and Simmons will be responsible for this, and others will assist. Everyone was thoughtful. This resolution is somewhat interesting. Although Fitz and Simmons are the most outstanding young scientists in the world, they are actually the worst in this conference room. Instead, they are responsible for the reason. Eric and Jane are astronomers, which is not suitable. Others are not experts in engineering machinery, so it is normal for them not to be responsible. But Tony should be the best candidate. Fitz and Simmons tied together and multiplied by 2 are not as good as Tony. Not letting him take charge obviously means that he doesn't trust him. Tony didn't say anything. It's normal to not trust him. After all, he's not one of his family members. It's understandable. And it's not that he is not allowed to do research. It's just that the decision-making power is not in his hands. The research on quantum brain should be accelerated. Lao Wang looked at Dr. Pime. The Chitauri have some research in this area, which can be used as a reference. Once completed, it will be applied to spacecraft, aircraft, and steel soldiers. In addition, I have to mention one thing. Safety is the most important. I don't want an omnic crisis to really happen. Everyone must not become a sinner of mankind. This is a bit heavy, but it can't be light. Because Lao Wang knows very well. In fact, none of the people present are reliable, and none of them have caused trouble. Research in this area should not be abandoned because of choking. Every advanced civilization in the universe is far ahead of humans in computer research. It's not that there has been no omnic crisis, but in fact there are not too many. There are too many ways to destroy civilization, and the omnic crisis is just one of them. There is one more thing. Lao Wang looked at Dr. Eric and Jian. I have uploaded some knowledge related to the world tree and the 9 realms. You have the authority to access it. Research in this area must also be accelerated. This is very important, and you must not slack off. Dr. Eric felt a little strange. Why did Director Wang attach so much importance to astronomical research? Jian nodded heavily. I will. Okay, today's meeting ends here. Lao Wang stood up. Everyone, let's go. This meeting determined the research direction of the Azeroth laboratory in the next few years, but it didn't mean much to Lao Wang himself. If you want to improve your personal strength, one is cultivation and realm, and the other is equipment. He has been working hard to cultivate, and his cultivation has been steadily improving. It is impossible to speed up, so he can only take it slowly. As for the improvement of equipment, it must rely on the blood of Azeroth. Without blood, you have to find something to exchange. Now with the cosmic cube and the corresponding ancient knowledge, as long as you know the coordinates, you can go to any place in the universe at any time. The universe is full of resources, far more than a mere Earth. And the first goal is a starry sky that just went through a war. Asgard. Thor led Sif, the 3 warriors, and the warriors of Asgard, walked across the long rainbow bridge, and came to the rebuilt Heimdall temple. Your Highness, which country do you plan to go to first? Heimdall asked. In the 2 years since the destruction of the Rainbow Bridge, Asgard has lost control of the 9 realms. The undead in the underworld of Helheim, the frost giants in Jotunheim, the fire giants in Muspelheim, the indigenous races in Vanaheim, the light elves in Alfheim, the dark elves in Svartalfheim. Every place must be visited to ensure that Asgard's rule continues in those countries. Go to Vanaheim first, Thor said. Vanaheim is the hometown of Hagen, one of the 3 warriors. No matter what, you have to take care of your brothers first. As for the Dark Elves, those terrible beings can only be ranked last. Chapter 412, Dragon Mist Staff, Part 1. In the space thousands of light years away from the Earth, in a space fluctuation, Lao Wang appeared. He looked around. There were debris left by the Chitauri everywhere. Although the relative positions had changed a little, they were basically the same as before. It seemed that no one had come since he left. Didn't Thanos come? Or did Thanos come, but he didn't care about these debris at all? What a prodigal son. Thanos was a wealthy man, and he obviously didn't care about these debris. He spent tens of millions of dollars every minute. Instead of running here to pick up garbage, he might as well conquer another civilization, or destroy a planet. How could he have the time to do that? The Chitauri really wanted these debris, and they could be reassembled and used. Especially those biochemical soldiers. In fact, many of them were not dead, but because the electromagnetic control system on the spacecraft was destroyed, so it was shut down, and they just needed to be restarted. Although it is all mass production, and a set of assembly lines are used to complete it, raw materials are still needed. No matter how fertile the Chitauri are, they can't catch up with sows. Moreover, Thanos' father's family planning policy has recently been implemented, and a family is only allowed to have 2 children. In addition, there have been many wars recently, and many people have died. The birth rate is lower than the death rate, and the population has dropped sharply. Every bit of money saved is a bit of money saved. But they probably don't dare to come over. What if there is an ambush? Those space rats have been scared. So these wreckages have been left in place, which is a bargain for Lao Wang. Most of them have exchange value, but they certainly can't all be exchanged. Lao Wang touched his chin. Most of the wreckage left by the Chitauri does not need to be exchanged, because they are still useful. They can be handed over to the team of scientists for analysis and research. It will be no problem to get a few spaceships, troop transports, and individual combat aircraft. Then the rest can be used for exchange, and we should be able to get a lot of blood of Azeroth. After all, this is the wreckage of most of the expeditionary force, including dozens of spaceships, hundreds of biochemical monster transport ships, hundreds of thousands of biochemical soldiers, and supporting individual combat aircraft, which is not a small number. If things go on for a long time, something will happen. Act now. Lao Wang took out a Kree communicator without hesitation and said, "Wukong, are you ready?" "Already ready. Ready to go at any time." Lao Wang smiled slightly, took out the cosmic cube, and opened the portal. Unlike the last time on Earth, this time there was no one to disturb him, so there was enough time to slowly expand the portal. After a full hour, with the input of a large amount of energy, the azure blue portal became larger and larger, and the final radius exceeded 300 meters, far exceeding the last time by nearly 10 times. The next moment, in a dazzling light, the god stick passed through the portal and appeared in front of him. "Wukong, immediately release all small spaceships, individual combat aircraft, and Azerothian soldiers to clean up the battlefield." As soon as the voice fell, the hatches opened one by one. There were 10 small spaceships of about 20 meters long, which flew out under the control of Wukong, followed by more than 200 small combat aircraft. The Kree and the Chitauri are different, and they pay more attention to quality rather than quantity. So their spaceships are not particularly large, but the value of each one is at least 10 times that of the same type of Chitauri spaceships. These spaceships are powerful and have strong towing capabilities. They can clean up the battlefield at a speed at least 1,000 times faster than Lao Wang himself. Of course, Lao Wang will not be idle. "Xiana Hong, you go and help too." The Crimson Devil belt flew away reluctantly. As long as the Titan energy is sufficient, it can become larger and larger. In theory, it can wrap the entire solar system at its largest size. Of course, this is what it said itself, and as for how much water is in it, only it knows. In total, the Titan energy Lao Wang invested in it is at least equivalent to 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, which can be exchanged for a good artifact. Such a large investment will naturally pay off. The Crimson Magic Belt is much stronger than at the beginning. It can even tie up Hulk, and unless he is forced to the point of being extremely angry, he can't break free. This is based on actual combat experience. During this period, Lao Wang has fought with Hulk a lot, tied him up and trained him. As for the ability to grow bigger and longer, just look at what is in front of you. The Crimson Magic Belt is flying towards the depths of space while continuously extending. In the blink of an eye, it exceeds 1,000 meters. In the blink of an eye, it is 10 kilometers. The width is also more than 300 meters. It can even wrap a complete Chitauri spaceship. This is not the limit. It's just that the bigger and longer it becomes, the lower its own defensibility and toughness will be. Once it is not strong enough, it will not be strong enough to drag. Sometimes, thick and long does not mean strength. Short and small are more powerful and more durable. Don't think it's just a magic weapon. In fact, in terms of cleaning up space junk, its efficiency is far more efficient than 10 small spaceships. After all, from the appearance alone, it doesn't just look like a belt, but more like a rag. I'll probably just need to take this with me when I go shopping in the depths of the universe. Lao Wang was thoughtful. He strolled leisurely, shuttling between the debris one by one. The Heart of Azeroth emitted a deep blue light, wrapped the debris one by one, and dragged them into it. Only when a sufficient amount was accumulated did he open the space-time channel and exchange them all 1 microgram, 1 milligram, 1 gram. The spherical spaces continued to swell with blood, and the numbers on the attribute panel kept jumping. Although each jump was not much, it added up to a considerable amount. Lao Wang carefully observed and made a preliminary judgment on the value of these debris. The Chitauri biochemical soldiers, due to a large degree of biochemical transformation, have a physical fitness that is about twice that of humans, and more than 2/3 of their parts have been replaced with alloy materials that are better than titanium alloy, so their value is far greater than that of human corpses. Each biochemical soldier corpse can be exchanged for about 1 milligram of Azeroth's blood, 1000 is 1 gram, and 100,000 is 100 grams. The value of the Chitauri single soldier combat aircraft is much higher than that of the biological soldiers, about 5 milligrams, and 100,000 of them is 500 grams of Azeroth's blood. The transport ship, that is, the biological beast Leviathan, is much more valuable than the former. One corpse is worth about 5 grams of Azeroth's blood, which is about the same as the frost beast in Jotunheim. As for those 1,000-meter spaceships, Lao Wang didn't exchange any of them. They can still be used after repairing. If we make a rough estimate, the value of a spaceship is at least equivalent to 100 Leviathans, or even more. The cleanup work lasted a whole day. Lao Wang opened the door again and again, and the Shengun went in and out again and again, transporting most of the Chitauri wreckage to the outer sky of the earth opposite the portal. The remaining small part was all exchanged. Lao Wang had an unprecedented harvest. 2234 grams of Azeroth's blood. Looking at the number that stopped jumping on the attribute interface, Lao Wang was in a very good mood. The last time the Ancient One performed a dark ritual, stealing the energy of the dark dimension, while Dormammu was not paying attention, it was only equivalent to about 1000 grams of Azeroth's blood in the end. This time it was twice as much. The equipment can finally be upgraded. Artifacts are generally divided into 3 levels. Low-level artifacts are worth at least 10 grams of Azeroth's blood, such as the sword, shield, and armor of the goddess Sif. Mid-level artifacts are worth at least 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, such as Thor's hammer. High-level artifacts are worth at least 1000 grams of Azeroth's blood, such as the icebox and the spear of eternity. Of course, this is just a rough division, and there are actually many factors that affect it. For example, size. Thor's hammer is made of the same material as Loki's dagger, but its value is far higher than that of the dagger. After all, the materials needed to forge it are at least dozens of times that of the dagger. Roughly estimated, the value of Thor's hammer is definitely close to 1000 grams of Azeroth's blood, or even more. So far, Lao Wang has only exchanged a few artifacts. The monk artifacts Fist of the Heavens and Fuzan, Wanderer's Friend are both relatively common among the mid-level artifacts. Each piece is worth about 600 grams of Azeroth's blood, and the two together are roughly equivalent to Thor's hammer. The warrior artifacts Scales of the Earth Guardian and Shattered Scales are a set, which are much cheaper than the Fist of the Heavens, with a total of 300 grams of Azeroth's blood. And now Lao Wang wants to exchange for the last of the 3 monk artifacts, Dragon Mist Staff. The level 7 space-time channel is opened, and a finely carved wooden staff appears in front of Lao Wang. It looks very short, only about 2/3 of the disintegration staff, as if it had been broken by someone. The wooden staff handle is wrapped with bronze metal decorations, and the head of the staff is inlaid with Pandaria's unique magical material, jade. The power of nature is condensed in it, and then naturally radiates from the inside to the outside. At the first sight of it, Lao Wang felt as if his heart was purified. He had been in this world for 22 years, and he had never been as calm as he was now. In an instant, he was promoted from a mortal to a sage. This is a staff with magical power. It can free people from negative emotions and nourish the body of the holder. The Fist of the Heavens is indestructible and can guide the power of the storm. It can destroy hundreds of enemies in an instant. The Wanderer's Friend comes from the first tree of Pandaria. It is many times harder than steel. It has continuously absorbed natural energy and the precipitation of tens of thousands of years. I don't know how many enemies it has destroyed, including the demigod level demons. The Staff of Mist is different. It doesn't look strong, has no ability to guide violent element, and has no power to destroy all enemies. But it is worth 1000 grams of Azeroth's blood, almost the sum of the Fist of the Heavens and the Wanderer's Friend. It was once more humble than any professional artifact, but its experience is more legendary than most artifacts. Lao Wang stretched out his left hand and held the staff. He closed his eyes and listened to the staff's words. Just like before, Lao Wang let go of his mind and resonated with the mist staff, and scenes emerged in his mind. Chapter 413, The Mist That Shrouds the Earth, Part 2. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Mogu ruled the entire Pandaria. The last emperor, Lei Shen, usurped the authority and power of the great guardian Lei. Infinite terror loomed over all races, including the Pandaren and the Hosen. Those who followed the order prospered, and those who rebelled against it perished. The Pandaren fled to the ancient Kunlei summit, and asked for help from the White Tiger Zun, one of the supreme gods. After a month-long battle, the White Tiger Zun was defeated by Lei Shen with lightning and a ball of wool, and then imprisoned. Thousands of years later, a Pandaren named Kang discovered the existence of Ki through constant thinking and practice. The Pandaren monk finally appeared, and Kang was also called the Fist of Dawn. The White Tiger Zun saw all this. He guided Kang to make a staff with an ordinary branch, and gave part of his power to the staff. Kang named the staff after his dead son, Shen Lang. Many years later, with the power of this staff, Kang led the Pandaren to overthrow the rule of the Mogu. With his death, the dragon staff was taken back to Shianshan Temple. The 100-year cycle of the Pandaren and the Mantis began again and again, and one after another, the Mist Weavers picked up the staff to resist the invasion of the Mantis. Every Mistweave master resonated with this staff, and a part of their own power was forever integrated into it. Until one day, it fell into the hands of Xiaohao, the last emperor of the Pandaren. Accompanied by the dragon staff, he and the Monkey King holding the Friend of the Wanderer successively sealed the 6 evil spirits, and led the Pandaren to glory again. When the War of the Ancients began, and the Burning Legion invaded, in order to protect his people, Xiaohao wanted to build a powerful army, so he found the 4 supreme gods, and asked them to fight for the Pandaren. Zun refused unless Xiaohao passed the test. Xiaohao was asked to fight with a monk, but he was defeated. He broke the staff, and left Kunlei Summit. He found that, even if he gathered the power of the entire Pandaria, he could not resist the Burning Legion, so he found Zun again. Meet his own destiny. Xiaohao's soul, as powerful as a demigod, merged with the continent of Pandaria, and then turned into mist through the dragon staff, covering the entire continent, and isolating it from the world. Even the Burning Legion could not enter. In the following tens of thousands of years, the Mist of Pandaria continued to fight against the power of the 7 evils, giving the entire continent of Pandaria a rare peace. The dragon staff has a new name. This staff has been kept in Yangchante, constantly nourished in the mist, and has been blessed by the King Lang Yulang, and gained some of its power. In the tens of thousands of years that followed, no Pandaren was qualified to pick it up and get its recognition. Until a soul that did not belong to the world of Warcraft appeared. Lao Wang opened his eyes. The Fist of the Heavens was born for attack, the Wanderer's Friend was born for protection, and the meaning of the Mist Staff is to heal. Not only to heal others, but more importantly to heal the holder. It allows the holder to maintain inner peace at any time, and what the Pandaren need most in their practice is peace. Only in absolute calm can one see oneself clearly, and only in that state can one better refine Ki into spirit, and further, reach the level that Emperor Xiaohao once reached, to rival myths with a mortal body, and to protect the continent with a weak soul. For Lao Wang now, the Staff of Mist is far more important than the Fist of the Heavens and the Friend of the Wanderer combined. It also has a greater role. Lao Wang clenched the staff, and injected a powerful soul into it. Under the special power of the Staff of Mist, the surging spiritual power turned into wisps of mist and spread in all directions. Lao Wang now has returned to the Azeroth laboratory. The sky is bright and the sun is blazing. Santuan, located in the subtropics, never has fog at this time of year. But now, the fog appears from the Azeroth laboratory, and then gets bigger and bigger. It spreads at a speed visible to the naked eye, quickly covering the entire laboratory, then the nearby grasslands and forests, and soon spreads to the city of Sichuan. The ancient city was swallowed up by the fog in less than a minute. People looked up and saw the fog quickly disappearing from the ground, moving towards the sky, and soon merged with the clouds. A few minutes later, the entire 9,000 square kilometers of Puerto Rico were shrouded in fog. All communication facilities failed for a moment, but soon recovered. No one could explain it. It was simply a miracle of nature. The sun was blocked by the fog, and visibility dropped to a level that was comfortable for the eyes. At this time, the fog had left Puerto Rico and entered the boundless sea. It engulfed Dominica and Haiti, Cuba, and Jamaica, and then spread to various countries at the intersection of North and South America, as well as the entire Gulf of Mexico. 10 minutes later, the fog landed in the United States, Mexico, Venezuela, and Colombia. Then it swallowed up the entire United States and Brazil. The fog crossed the Atlantic Ocean to Africa, and swallowed Honolulu and Hawaii to the west. Soon it engulfed all of South America and North America, even the entire Western Hemisphere, and then the entire Eastern Hemisphere. The thick fog enveloped the entire Earth. It stopped suddenly. It quickly gathered. It gathered towards Sichuan at a speed 100 times faster, and finally disappeared into the mist staff, turning into pure spiritual power. The old king opened his eyes. At the same time, Asgard, following the order of the father of the gods, Heimdall routinely inspected the 9 realms. Every world has places and people that need special attention, and there are more such places and people on Earth than in the other 7 worlds combined. He first glanced at Kunlun, then swept from north to south to the afterlife and Kamatage, suddenly swept east to the Hong Kong temple, then paid attention to the London temple to the west, and then looked south at Wakanda protected by the vibranium barrier. Then his eyes continued to the west, where there was Sichuan, which needed the most attention. At this moment, the mist that suddenly rose blocked his sight. What a strange power. He frowned slightly, confused. There were not many places on Earth that could block his sight, not even Kunlun and Kamatage, and Wakanda. Only the 3 holy temples were protected by the power left by Agamotto, so no one could spy directly, including Odin. And now, a special layer of fog actually covered 1/3 of the Earth, making him unable to see anything. The center of the fog seems to be Sichuan. Could it be, or this be related to Director Wang? This matter must be reported to the father of the gods. He was about to send a message, and Odin's voice rang in his mind. I already know. Suddenly turning around, Odin was behind him. Father of the gods. Heimdall was interrupted by Odin. Before he was halfway through his words, he raised his right hand and clenched it in the air, and the spear of eternity came from the void, emitting golden light. Odin looked outside the rainbow bridge, but he could not see anything. The entire Earth disappeared in his sight, as if it had never existed. At the original coordinates of the Earth, only a cloud of fog remained. Suddenly, the fog disappeared. Odin's heart skipped a beat. This rise and fall, why is it so much like the Earth is breathing? Kamatage. As usual, after exchanging a glance with Heimdall, Ancient One cast her gaze towards Sichuan. Every day, she would look towards Sichuan, on the one hand, to find out what Grandmaster Wang was doing, and on the other hand, to take care of him, fearing that someone would cause trouble for Grandmaster Wang. But something unexpected happened today. A layer of fog blocked her sight. It seems to be a manifestation of some kind of spiritual power. You can use your spiritual power to cover 1/3 of the Earth, which is not inferior to me at all. Ancient One whispered softly, shaking her folding fan. Grandmaster Wang is so powerful, even if he faces Dormammu, he can still hold on for a few rounds, right? At this moment, the fog passed through his body and enveloped the entire Earth. Ancient One's expression froze instantly. Such a powerful spiritual power, this universe has never seen it before. It turns out that his soul is close to the gods and immortals. Ancient One sighed softly and released her spirit. She felt particularly peaceful, and the spiritual fog that swept across the world seemed to cleanse her spirit, and even the erosion of the power of the dark dimension was alleviated. Unfortunately, it's too late. I can't be saved. Her mental power quickly swept across the entire Kadmanchuria and found more abnormalities. Everyone seemed to have been cleansed. Their behavior became much quieter and more harmonious. Even their bodies seemed to be nourished. Both their mind and body were changing for the better. That mental fog can not only soothe the spirit, but also heal the body. Guyi felt more relaxed than ever before. She could already foresee the changes that would happen in the world. That was a real change. Chapter 414, The Blessing of the Supreme God, Part 3, Azeroth Laboratory. Looking at the Staff of Mist in his hand, Lao Wang smiled slightly. The most powerful ability of this staff is that it can make a person's mental power materialize to the greatest extent, and it can also increase it to a certain extent. Tens of thousands of years of magic immersion and the power of successive generations of Mistweavers have made up for the shortcomings of the material itself. It can fully carry the mental power of high-level demigods. In other words, with this staff, Lao Wang's mental power can be almost fully released. Of course, it is only almost. Lao Wang's mental power has actually exceeded the level of high-level demigods, and reached the peak of demigods. Even compared with the great guardian Lei and deceiver Kil'jaeden, it is stronger, even comparable to the old gods. Only below the titans and the lords of the void. The Staff of Mist is only a second-tier artifact, and it cannot carry all of his mental power. It would be about the same if it were replaced by the priest artifact Sarthas Blade of the Black Empire. The strength of the body restricts the strength of the mental power. The Grandmaster level body is far from being able to carry Lao Wang's powerful soul, and most of the soul power has to fall into sleep. The soul determines the spirit. When the soul is asleep, the spiritual power that Lao Wang can release is naturally limited, and can only cover the entire United States. Now, Lao Wang can let the Mist Staff carry his soul when he needs it, so as to release more soul power, and release more powerful spiritual power. Although the spirit is only a part of a person's comprehensive strength, even if the spiritual power of the high-level demigod level can be released, it does not mean that Lao Wang can show the strength of the high-level demigod level, but at least it allows Lao Wang to have the qualifications to fight when facing the combat power of the high-level demigod level. In Lao Wang's view, the high-level demigods in World of Warcraft, that is, ordinary Titan Guardians, the 5 Guardian Dragon Kings, the 4 Elemental Lords, and the Road Guardian Melon, are roughly equivalent to the Subfather of the Marvel Universe. And those top demigods, such as the Great Guardian Rab, the General of Azeroth Odin, the Deceiver Kil'jaeden, the Polluter Archimand, Deathwing, Medivh, the Light of Light Ashura, are probably equivalent to the Father of the Marvel Universe. The Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One is almost the Egwene of Earth, and Odin of the Two Worlds is roughly at the same level. With this staff, the spiritual power that Lao Wang can release is close to that of Odin in good condition, and in terms of combat power alone, it can completely crush everyone below the Subfather. More importantly, this is a healing staff. The Pandaren were once the most solid and reliable allies of the Night Elves. The Night Elves were protected by the gods of the wilderness, and under the guidance of Forest King Cenarius, they embarked on the druid path of being close to nature. The Pandaren were also protected by the gods of the wilderness, and with the help of the 4 supreme gods, they embarked on the monk path of being close to nature. From the root, the monks and druids are as close as one family. The true key used by the monks is the power of life itself, and the natural magic used by the druids is the power of nature itself. Life and nature are essentially the same, and both come from the spouse of Aman'Thul, the supreme father of the pantheon, life-giver Iona. The monks who specialize in weaving fog and the druids who specialize in restoration are both healers in World of Warcraft, and their healing methods focus on the combination of body and soul. Lao Wang is a master of 3 disciplines, and he is the most amazing healer in the history of the Pandaren. In those earth-shaking epic wars, Lao Wang, holding the Staff of Mist, has healed countless wounds, and brought countless people back from the brink of death. Even Tyrande and Majerian cannot be compared with him. The Earth is a sick planet. Air pollution, water pollution, food pollution, all of these have put more than 90% of the people in the world in a sub-healthy state. The pressure of employment, the pressure of life, the pressure from parents and elders to have a second child, the confusion about the future and the anxiety of not keeping up with the times, the 10 years of pillow affairs, the worries of the 2 old people in Jiangnan, all of these have also put most people in a sub-healthy state of mind. The power of one person is limited. No matter how great a doctor or psychologist is, he or she can't heal many people in a lifetime. The proportion of lifesavers and soul engineers in the world, especially in less developed countries, is too low. Medical resources and educational resources are always the two major factors that limit the development of human civilization. Lao Wang didn't have any good solutions before, but now, with this staff, he can release the spiritual fog with dual healing effects, cooperate with the power of nature itself, make the world more vibrant, and improve the natural and spiritual environment. Turn the whole earth into a quiet and peaceful Pandaria. Since you can't go back to the world that is most comfortable and suitable for you, create such a world. He may not heal anyone directly, but as long as he does this, he can make everyone in the world healthier and healthier. The development of science and technology and the improvement of physical fitness must be escorted by the improvement of quality. Every time the fog is washed, the world will be less violent and take away a bit of negative emotions. In the long run, human civilization will definitely get better and better. This is Lao Wang's expectation. After all, this is his third hometown. For Lao Wang, every release and retraction of spiritual power is a practice and a breath of the earth. Every planet is a life. A skilled monk can achieve the unity of man and nature. Emperor Shaoheo can even merge with the Pandaria continent, which is equivalent to Oceania. Druids favored by nature can pray for feedback and help from nature. World Demofurian can even get help from the entire ancient Kalimda continent at a critical moment. To do this, you must share the fate and breath with the place where you are. What Lao Wang has to do now is to get the recognition and feedback of the earth by helping the earth. The feedback from nature will definitely bring feedback from the power of nature, which is good for Lao Wang's physical and spiritual practice. Maybe one day, he can really mobilize the power of the entire earth. But to do this, the mist staff alone is not enough. Lao Wang needs more. The gods of the wilderness are the representatives of natural life and the model of the immortal soul. And now, Lao Wang wants to seek their help. Miss, I need the blessing of the four supreme gods. As soon as Lao Wang finished speaking, the voice of Azeroth sounded. 400 points of Azeroth's blood. The supreme gods are the gods of the wilderness. Even among all the gods of the wilderness, they are not weak. Among them, the most powerful white tiger Zunfu can be compared with the Mogul Shen, who has obtained part of the power and authority of the great guardian Lei. They are definitely high-level demigods. The level 7 space-time channel is opened, and 4 projections appear. White Tiger Zunfu, Azure Dragon Yulong, Red Crane Shijing, Black Ox Zenzao. Each projection is a blessing, containing part of the power of the supreme gods, the power of life and the power of the soul, which is equivalent to cutting off a small part of their souls. Therefore, even in the history of the entire world of Warcraft, there are not many mortals who have been favored by demigods. The white tiger roars, the azure dragon dances, the red crane spreads its wings, and the black ox roars. The 4 projections drilled into Lao Wang's body, leaving different marks on his arms and thighs. 4 different powers merged into Lao Wang's body and soul. He received the inheritance of the supreme god. The inheritance of the white tiger enhanced his strength and reaction speed, while the inheritance of the azure dragon greatly enhanced his healing ability. The inheritance of the red crane enhanced Lao Wang's resistance to magic, and the inheritance of the black ox enhanced his defense and vitality. Most importantly, Lao Wang had the ability to summon the spirit of the supreme god. Azure dragon, white tiger, red crane, black ox. Listen to my command. Lao Wang whispered softly. The surging mental power and true energy flowed into the patterns on his arms and thighs, and merged with the spirit of the supreme god hidden in them. A second later, the pattern came alive. They separated from Lao Wang's skin, and turned into 4 powerful spirits, appearing beside Lao Wang. Feeling the energy fluctuations from the 4 spirits, Lao Wang roughly understood their strength. These spirits only contained part of the souls of the 4 supreme gods. Not a lot, each one was a little worse than the weakest demigod. However, when they merged with Lao Wang's spiritual power and true ki, they were roughly equivalent to 4 Grandmaster level monks. Although their strength was far inferior to Lao Wang himself, they were also very good helpers. For Lao Wang, their greatest value was to help him practice, speed up his practice, break through the Grandmaster level as soon as possible, and reach the demigod level. The Marvel Universe is a very dangerous world, full of strong people who can destroy civilization. Even with Lao Wang's current strength, he can only protect himself, and has no qualifications to compete for hegemony in the universe. Although his strength has been further enhanced, he can't even beat Thanos with his bare hands. Only when his cultivation reaches the demigod level, plus the soul and spirit of the top demigod level, can he confront Thanos, a sub-father level strongman. Only then, he will be the true guardian of the earth and even the 9 realms. There is not much blood of Azeroth left, and there are other users. Coming to the newly established Infinity Gem Laboratory, Lao Wang greeted Tony, who was obsessed with research, and then picked up the Mind Scepter. The Heart of Azeroth emitted a dazzling azure light, covering the Mind Scepter and beginning to analyze it. The Mind Scepter was at the same level as the Cosmic Cube, and if it was to be fully analyzed, it would take hundreds of points of Azeroth's blood and a whole day. Lao Wang had plenty of time to wait, so he simply stayed in the laboratory and paid attention to the research progress of Tony and the others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 415 Energy Changes the World, Part 1. What's the situation? Lao Wang asked. He looked around. The Mind Scepter was placed on a set of sophisticated equipment, with all kinds of completely incomprehensible probes, rays, scanners, and spectrometers serving it. The huge laboratory was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all serving it, just like 100 strong men serving a petite girl. Next to it was another set of equipment, with a square groove waiting for something to be inserted. Lao Wang raised his hand, and the Cosmic Cube flew in. It fit perfectly. In the past period of time, the Cosmic Cube had been studied here by Tony and others, and was only taken away when needed. Well, we haven't started researching the Mind Scepter yet. It's mainly too difficult. We don't have any clues yet. Fitz, who was learning from the top scientists and helping out, said, it's not difficult to extract the energy of the Cosmic Cube. The difficult part is to create a container that can hold higher level energy, and then use this energy in the required equipment to output it with stable power. Mr. Stark and S.H.I.E.L.D. have done a lot of research in this area. We have designed a container that can output high power. In fact, it is a variant of the arc reactor. Following his gaze, Lao Wang saw another cube. It looks very similar to the Cosmic Cube, but it is not a pure energy body or crystal, but a metal cube. It is not a sealed hole, but a fine combination of many parts. Through the gaps between the parts, you can see the azure light, which is the energy of the Cosmic Cube restricted by a special force field. No substance on Earth can carry so much cosmic energy. This is the only way. A large amount of cosmic energy was extracted from the Cosmic Cube and then injected into it. The azure light became brighter and brighter, but not too dazzling. It had a kind of cold and gentle feeling, just like the deep and silent starry sky. It's made of pure vibranium. This kind of cosmic energy is so high that only a little bit of it can be used by everyone in New York for a day. Ordinary materials are not stable or safe enough. If something goes wrong, so much energy will leak out in an instant, and the explosion will be equivalent to a small nuclear bomb. Fitz's eyes lit up. Its energy density is higher than Mr. Stark's vibranium reactor. Although it is just such a big cube, it can be used by the whole of New York for a year. It is a real clean energy, and as you said, it is unlimited energy. Boss, we need vibranium now, a lot of vibranium. Without vibranium, we can't do further experiments and make more containers. The Schengen needs energy, the Chitauri spacecraft needs energy, and the individual combat aircraft and the Iron Soldiers all need energy. Lao Wang rubbed his temples and had a headache. Vibranium, is it so easy to find? Yes, it is in Wakanda, with a total of 10,000 tons. But the problem is that they are not short of money and don't sell it at all. After all, vibranium is the foundation of their country. The energy supply and technological development of the entire country are based on vibranium. How can they sell it in large quantities? For tens of thousands of years, vibranium has been flowing out of Wakanda, but in fact, it is not much, at most 1 ton. These vibraniums are gradually concentrated in the hands of governments and capitalists of various countries, such as the United States and Stark Industries. In almost 3 years, Lao Wang has brought all the vibranium that can be found on the market to the Azeroth laboratory through various channels. The total is less than 100 kilograms, and this number is far more than any other country, even more than Stark Industries. Want to get more vibranium? It's too difficult. Can't it be replaced with other materials? Lao Wang couldn't help asking. Theoretically, it can. Fitz gestured and explained, the material of the container determines how much energy it can contain, and how dense the energy is. Energy is like air. The higher the compression, the higher the requirements for the container. If you use precision-made ordinary alloys, it will work, but the energy stored is very small, probably only 1/10,000th of the vibranium container. 1/10,000th? Actually, it's not small, at least hundreds of times that of lithium batteries. Lao Wang is not good at math, and can't calculate it, but this doesn't prevent him from making a judgment. If we use ordinary alloy to make a container this big, how much would it cost? How far can a car drive? He pointed at the cosmic cube and asked. This needs to be calculated in detail. Feeling Lao Wang's expectant eyes, Fitz hurriedly calculated. After a full 10 seconds, he finally figured out the answer. $1,000 is enough, and it can drive 10,000 kilometers. Of course, it depends on what kind of car it is, and what speed requirements it has. If it is a flying car like Director Fury, which weighs several tons, it can only drive 1,000 kilometers at most. Lao Wang touched his chin. It's already very good, much more efficient than gasoline. In this way, we can fully enter the clean energy industry. Energy is the heart of industry and the blood of civilization. The development of energy will comprehensively promote the development of industries and the entire civilization. Once it replaces oil, natural gas, and coal, it can solve the problem of air pollution from the root, make nature more vibrant, and make the earth healthier. Lao Wang and the earth share the same breath and destiny. The healthier the earth is, the more feedback he can get, and the stronger he will be. What if we use Azeroth metals? Lao Wang continued to ask. If I remember correctly, whether it is mithril or other metals, they are much stronger than ordinary metals and ordinary alloys in carrying and guiding energy. Actually, we have considered it. Fitz said, the most suitable one is vibranium, and adamantium is not suitable. If ordinary alloy containers are compared to paper tubes, mithril containers are wooden barrels, and thorium and arcanite containers are iron barrels. In addition, we have specially tested source iron, and the effect is not as good as vibranium. So, Lao Wang understood. He thought about it, and made a decision. Study, and manufacture containers of different materials separately. I need different models. From ordinary alloys with the smallest capacity to vibranium with the largest capacity. In addition, we must pay attention to safety. Containers made of ordinary alloys are not expensive, and can be sold to ordinary people. They are mainly used in cars, electric vehicles, household energy, etc. As for industries, airplanes, ships, etc. that consume more energy, containers mixed with mithril can be used. Azeroth soldiers, large cruise ships, military ships, large fighters, space stations, spaceships, etc. use better thorium, arcanite containers, or containers mixed with vibranium and adamantium iron. As for the 100 meter, 1000 meter spaceships, sky carriers, etc. that consume the most energy, I'm afraid that only pure adamantium iron and pure vibranium containers can be used. In addition, the container itself can be reused. It is only necessary to build energy centers around the world, place large containers, and recharge them with the cosmic cube every once in a while. According to the output power of the cosmic cube, it is no problem to charge for 5 minutes and use it for a year. In this way, a cosmic cube alone can increase the energy consumption of the entire Earth by many times. Some industries that are restricted by limited energy can also develop rapidly, and the progress of human civilization will also be accelerated. It seems necessary to set up a new company. Let's call it Azeroth Infinite Energy Co. Limited. Lao Wang snapped his fingers. Arms companies are very profitable, and virtual technology is quite profitable, but the former has a limited market and the latter is also subject to great restrictions. The number of people using virtual technology in the world is less than 1/10. Energy is different. Everyone uses it every day. Just look at the top companies in the world to see how big this market is. Many of the companies with the highest profits and sales are 20th oil, 20th petrochemical, and 20th natural gas. You can imagine how big the global energy market is. An ordinary person probably won't come into contact with arms in his life and only changes his mobile phone every few years. And he consumes energy every day. How much does a person spend on electricity every year, not to mention the oil and gas costs? And for Lao Wang, he only needs to invest in basic equipment, and energy and other things are completely zero investment. Of course, this aspect still needs to be communicated with governments of various countries. After all, it is an absolute monopoly. The change in energy mode is more thorough than any computer evolution or artificial intelligence, and the impact is more far-reaching. The government cannot ignore it. Boss, you may have overlooked a very important point. Fitz reminded in a low voice, the output power of the cosmic cube is limited, and it is impossible to supply the world. We calculated that it can't even make human civilization reach Kashev level 1 civilization, at most, 0.81 level. Chapter 416 Ulysses Claw, Part 2. The Kashev scale is a very special measurement method. It is a method used to measure the level of civilization, mainly linked to energy. Level 1 civilization is the master of the planet, which means that they can dominate the total energy of the planet and the surrounding satellites. Level 2 civilization is the master of the planetary system and can collect the energy of the entire star system. Level 3 civilization is the master of the star system and can use the energy of the entire star system. So far, humans are still far from reaching level 1 civilization. Even the energy utilization rate of the Earth itself is less than 1%. It may take 100 years or even longer to achieve this goal. Even if it is only a level 0.81 civilization, the total energy output per unit time will be several times more than it is now, which is not so easy to achieve. Such a precise calculation. Lao Wang smiled slightly. Don't worry about this, I will solve it. The output power of the cosmic cube is limited, but the space gem is much larger. I don't know how many times it is the cosmic cube. Of course, the output power of the space gem is not unlimited. However, if the output power exceeds 1000 times that of the entire Earth, it is still completely possible for the human civilization on Earth to directly leap to level 1 civilization. Even more than that. The output power of the space gem may even exceed that of the sun, which is the standard of a level 2 civilization. As for further development and truly reaching level 3 civilization, that is, the level of advanced cosmic civilization, it depends on the power of civilization itself, and the joint efforts of all human beings. Lao Wang can't force things to grow, so he can only fertilize slowly. These metals should be enough for your current research. Lao Wang waved his hand and directly exchanged various metals worth 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, even source ingots and titan iron, which added up to thousands of tons. If this was not the first floor and the ground was not tiled but high strength alloy, it would probably have smashed a big hole. As for vibranium, I'll find a way. Lao Wang pinched his brows to relieve his fatigue. Dun Huang, let Adam help me find someone. Yes, his name is Ulysses Claw. He's white, a physicist, and not a good guy. A few seconds later, all his information has been found, and his current coordinates are as follows. What a high efficiency. Lao Wang looked at everyone else. Everyone, are you interested in seeing a magical country? The level of technology there is far beyond any country in the world. Their use of energy is at least 50 years ahead of the world, or even 100 years. 100 years. Dr. Banner was stunned. Is there such a country in the world? Fitz's eyes lit up, and he raised his hand quickly. Boss, can I go? Tony thought, you mean Wakanda? The country that has long stopped using oil and natural gas, and has no pollution? I heard that Wakanda is very exclusive and no one has ever been there. Moreover, they don't eat hamburgers. How can anyone not like hamburgers? You are a hamburger fan. Lao Wang complained. You guys prepare first. You may need to have scientific exchanges with scientists in Wakanda at that time. Don't weaken the prestige of Azeroth. I'll be back soon. Dun Huang, help me contact King Chaka and tell him that I hope to have a scientific exchange in Wakanda. I have prepared a gift for him. He will definitely like it. Activate the transmission function and disappear. In the Pacific Ocean, a cargo ship. Ulysses Claw is in a good mood. He went to Wakanda 20 years ago and stole 250 kilograms of vibranium from Wakanda through the relationship of Prince Nachib. Unfortunately, he was discovered by the Wakandans when he was escaping, so he had to let the mercenaries detonate the bomb, killing many people in the border tribes, and forged a deep hatred with Wakanda. Not long after, Prince Nachib was executed by the Wakanda King Chaka, and he had to flee everywhere. Fortunately, vibranium is still there. For 20 years, he has been using his connections to sell vibranium in exchange for huge wealth. On the black market, the value of 1 gram of vibranium has been hyped up to $50,000, and 250 kilograms of vibranium means tens of billions of wealth, and for those who are in urgent need, this number can at least double. Now, he is going to trade with a big American capitalist and sell 10 kilograms of vibranium. The agreed price is $700 million, but he thinks it can be increased a little more, and 1 billion should be a more appropriate number. I don't know if there will be a chance to go to Wakanda again. Ulysses took a sip of red wine, and everything he saw in Wakanda that year emerged in his mind. Primitive lifestyle and political system, pollution-free environment and fresh air, high-tech buildings, and the most stunning aircraft. As early as 20 years ago, Wakanda had already developed an aircraft that could be invisible to the eye, which was more than 10 years earlier than the Quinjet of SHIELD. I don't know what level Wakanda's technology has reached today 20 years later. Such a country has never been open to the outside world and has not relied on vibranium to dominate the world. It is simply a waste. What a bunch of idiots. Do you really want to go back? A gentle voice sounded. Of course. Ulysses answered subconsciously and suddenly realized that something was wrong. This is a separate room, and no one is allowed to enter. This is his ship, and everyone must obey his orders. And the door has been locked. No one can come in, and the sound insulation effect is very good, and not too loud sounds can be transmitted. So where did this sound come from? It seems. He narrowed his eyes, pulled out his pistol at a very fast speed, and then turned around quickly, and was stunned again. Why is there nothing? I'm here, Ulysses. The same voice sounded behind him again, and at the same time, a slightly fat hand reached out in front of him, and grasped the pistol. With a gentle squeeze, the pistol was crushed into scrap metal with a sound that made people's teeth ache. Super soldier. A term immediately appeared in his mind, and Ulysses's mind turned quickly, thinking about countermeasures. Could it be that someone from S.H.I.E.L.D. has come? It doesn't matter. At most, it will cost him money. It will definitely be no problem. He has experience in dealing with those people. As long as the vibranium is still there, it can rise again. However, the voice sounded again. Tell me, where are your vibranium hidden? Do you think I'm stupid? I won't tell you. Ulysses was in a trance for a while, and said, there is a cabin below, with 10 kilograms in it, and the password is 30th. There is a warehouse in Los Angeles, which hides 5 kilograms, and the specific address is 30th. There are 7 kilograms in the Scottish Highlands, and the most in the countryside of France. 2 minutes later. Isn't this quite obedient? Lao Wang followed Ulysses, who had been controlled by the mind, to the cabin below, took out the vibranium inside, and then teleported to other places. Obviously, Ulysses has sold most of his vibranium in the past 20 years, otherwise he couldn't afford so many properties and such an expensive cargo ship. But there is still a lot left, as much as 80 kilograms. Even at the official price of $10,000 per gram, it is equivalent to $8 billion, a considerable fortune, more than the annual GDP of some small countries. Aren't you obsessed with Wakanda? Let's go. I will fulfill your wish as a reward for your voluntary contribution of 80 kilograms of vibranium. Lao Wang carried Ulysses back to the Azeroth laboratory, met with Tony and others, and then took a flying fighter to Eastern Africa. Chapter 417 Wakanda, Part 3. Wakanda is a small African country with a small area and a small population. This country is located on the east coast of Africa. Its territory includes several hills and grasslands near the mountains. Of course, this is only Wakanda in the eyes of outsiders. The real Wakanda is hidden in the valleys between the mountains, covered by illusions created by vibranium, and no unwelcome people can enter. The flying fighter plane stopped on the prairie of Wakanda. As soon as I got off the plane, I saw a group of African strongmen, each of whom was in the shape of a big bastard, riding a big horse. A strong nomadic atmosphere came to my face. These people are wearing colorful robes. Although they look ordinary, there are a lot of vibranium on each robe, which is presented in the form of silk thread or coating. Once they encounter danger, they can be activated to form a very powerful energy shield, which can block any attack that is not at the level of artillery or missiles. Pistols, machine guns, and sniper rifles are completely meaningless in front of vibranium robes. This thing is at least equivalent to 10 layers of bulletproof vests. Of course, the price is not cheap. It was just a battle robe, but the vibranium on it was several kilograms, worth tens of millions of dollars, which was far more luxurious than that of American soldiers. Such a heavy battle robe would not flutter in the wind, and I don't know if it was tiring to wear it. The huge battle robes tightly wrapped their bodies, and I didn't know if they were wearing anything inside. Lao Wang was not curious at all. Of course, he was not jealous. In the distance were low and simple houses, basically built of wood or stone, which looked like other nearby African countries, poor, backward, and incompatible with modern society. The others stopped quickly, and the burly man in the grey battle robe walked up to Lao Wang and others, looking at them with a vigilant look, and asked, "Who are you? Why did you come to Wakanda?" Lao Wang smiled slightly, stopped Tony, who couldn't control his mouth, stepped forward and said, "I'm the director of the Bureau of Divine Sticks. I think you should have heard of my name. I have applied to your king for entry to conduct scientific exchanges, and he agreed." It turned out to be Director Wang. "Please wait." The leader was in awe, and his eyes changed. Lao Wang's name is well known. After the global speech of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Lao Wang's popularity has become the world's #1. From the age of 99 to the youngest who can walk, everyone knows him, and can stop children from crying at night. What does it mean? If a child is disobedient, as long as the grandparents mention Lao Wang's name, the child will not dare to cry. He will be as obedient as possible, and will not be spanked. Various martial arts halls, dojos, and Chinese medicine clinics under the name of Lao Wang are blooming everywhere, and he is too lazy to care. With the emergence of the two virtual worlds of Chitauri invasion and Frost Giant invasion, countless billions of people have seen Lao Wang's heroic figure directly or indirectly, and they are envious, jealous, and even worship him. Of course, there are also those who sneer and smear him. Anyway, the Charlatan Bureau has nothing to do now. They invite people to drink tea all day long and the other party pays. After taking a look at the flying fighter in the distance, and then looking at the former richest man Tony Stark standing next to Lao Wang with his own BGM and gold label, the leader immediately believed most of it. Waving his hand to alert others, he strode 100 meters away, took out a satellite phone, and dialed the number with some unscaredness, which made Lao Wang want to laugh. Obviously, there is a wearable communicator comparable to Atlan, which not only has better signals than mobile phones, but can also directly project communication. The technology content is at least several decades ahead of the world. As a result, in order to disguise, he actually made a phone call, and he was quite thoughtful. He didn't take an ordinary mobile phone, but a satellite phone after all. There is no end to the endless here, and there is no communication base station to see. Wouldn't it be too fake to use an ordinary mobile phone? A few minutes later, the chief ended the call, returned to Lao Wang, and performed a strange etiquette. "I'm Wakabi, the commander of Wakanda's defense, minister of military, and leader of the frontier tribe. His Majesty the King did not expect you to come so soon. He has a very important matter to deal with, so please wait here for a while. Someone will come to pick you up later." He pointed to the flying fighter in the distance and said, "I'm sorry, your plane cannot enter the country. Please rest assured, we will keep an eye on it, and will not let it suffer any damage. I believe you." Lao Wang smiled, and then heard Wackerby say, "Please hand over your personal belongings. We need to check. Please cooperate. This is the same as a customs inspection in your country, a routine matter, not directed at you. Director Wang, I personally admire you very much, and your performance in the Battle of New York far exceeded my imagination. Don't hit a smiling person, especially when he did nothing wrong. After all, he is a minister of a country. In ancient China, Wackerby's status is roughly equivalent to that of a prince, a general, or a lieutenant. Although he is not under one person, and above 10,000 people, he is still very high, and must be respected. The guest follows the host's wishes. I will listen to you." Lao Wang laughed and said, "But there is no need to guard it. Dun Huang, let it go back. It is not needed here." "Yes, sir," an ethereal voice sounded, and the flying fighter automatically flew into the sky, entered the invisible state, and disappeared. If ordinary soldiers from poor African countries saw this scene, they would definitely be surprised and curious, but these frontier tribe warriors were not surprised, as if it was nothing special. It was not a black technology fighter that could be invisible, but the old hen next door. "Come with me," Wackerby said. He led Lao Wang and a group of people into Wakanda and settled down in the house of the frontier tribe. Seeing that Wackerby was about to take out his phone to report the situation, Lao Wang smiled and said, "Wackerby, there is no need to pretend in front of me. I know the internal situation of Wakanda very well." Of course. Wackerby is not good at speaking, but he is not stupid, otherwise he would not be able to get such a high position. Although Wackerby's senior officials are basically hereditary, Wakanda does not have family planning, and Wackerby also has brothers and sisters, so there is still competition. Even if you only need to defeat one or two competitors, it is also amazing. I know that you have high technology, and are many years ahead of the world. In your eyes, the Quinjet of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just a piece of garbage. Lao Wang asked curiously, "I don't understand this. Since the level of technology is so high, why do you still maintain the customs of nomadic peoples? On the way here, I saw many people riding horses and herding sheep. Is this necessary? Is it to develop tourism?" This is an ancient tradition that has continued from thousands of years ago to the present. Wakanda is a country that respects traditions. Wackerby had to explain, "We don't want to interfere too much with the outside world, nor do we want the outside world to know too much about us. That would be a disaster." Lao Wang laughed and didn't comment. He always felt that Wakanda had a big problem. This country obviously has mastered extremely high technology, and the energy absorbing properties of vibranium allow Wakanda to have almost unlimited energy, but it just sticks to such a small city and a small area nearby. It is understandable that they don't take care of other countries. After all, they are not relatives, and even relatives have to keep a certain distance. Brothers should settle accounts clearly. Not only are they afraid of thieves robbing, but they are also afraid of thieves thinking about it. But the problem is that other tribes enjoy the high technology brought by vibranium, while the border tribes graze outside the vibranium barrier and live a nomadic life. Is there any justice in this? It's like having the money to buy the best flush toilet, but still using the oldest pit toilet. Isn't this a disease? Who can tolerate it? Wakanda has such a big problem. It didn't matter in the past, when technology was not developed. After all, everyone squatted in the pit toilet, and at most it was a matter of size and the number of pits. In recent decades, technology has developed so fast, the gap between the rich and the poor has become larger and larger, and social contradictions have been constantly planned. It's not far from a revolution and rebellion. According to Wackerby, there are two reasons. One is of course to guard the border and prevent foreign invasion. Another reason is to make others think that Wakanda is a backward African country and use this method to cover up the truth about this country. In Lao Wang's opinion, the first reason is really hard to understand. Guard the border? Wakanda has such advanced technology, and it still needs its own people to guard the border? Wouldn't it be more convenient to just get some satellite monitoring? As for the second reason, it seems to be fine, but it is actually a big problem. Wakanda has always sent spies abroad, and Prince Job was one of them. In addition, in recent decades, Wakanda has sent many scholars to study outside, such as the future king and the current Prince T'Challa. With so many people outside, how could they not leak a little bit? And how could Wakanda's secrets be covered up by disguise alone? Even Ulysses can't know the secrets of Wakanda. Are the governments of various countries just eating dry rice? What a joke. The existence of Wakanda is not a secret at all for the real bigwigs of various countries. SHIELD has already had relevant information. Never underestimate the ability of SHIELD agents. They are the most elite agents in the world, and they know countless secrets. Even Kamataj and the 3 holy temples are under their surveillance, not to mention Wakanda. Director Wang, you guys take a rest first. Wakabi was obviously very busy. He needed to bring people to protect such a long national border, so he had no time to chat with Lao Wang. After waiting for 2 hours, a black plane emerged from invisibility and landed outside the house. Chapter 418 Black Panther, Part 1. This is a special aircraft similar to a flying saucer. It doesn't look aerodynamic at all. It is elliptical in shape. There is a turbine engine on each side of the wing. The propeller at the rear of the aircraft glows blue. It uses not the common fuel on the market, but clean energy in the true sense. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be controlled nuclear fusion. The arc reactor is essentially controlled nuclear fusion. Stark Industries can master such technology. There is no reason why Wakanda doesn't have it, and it may be more advanced. At least from the appearance, this aircraft is comparable to the single soldier combat aircraft of the Chitauri, or even better. Lao Wang couldn't help comparing it with the flying fighter. The new generation of flying fighters uses the arc reactor to provide energy. Whether it is flight speed or endurance, it is roughly the same as the Wakanda aircraft. Then they all have energy shields and can carry out energy attacks. The total value is roughly the same. Of course, if you compare them carefully, the 2 aircraft are different in many places. They have their own advantages and disadvantages in terms of size, weapon system and other aspects. In general, they should be considered at the same level. Since flying fighters can travel in space, there is no reason why Wakanda's aircraft cannot. But according to the intelligence Adam has collected during this period, Wakanda's aircraft have hardly left the Earth. It can only be said that Wakanda is not an ordinary salted fish. It is stubbornly guarding the vibranium and not moving. It has no pioneering spirit, and has wasted great resources in vain. In this small country with a relatively small population, the resources and wealth are controlled by the royal family and the patriarchs of various tribes. The future of the country is completely in their hands. It is a serious one. Soldier is a bad general. The character of the king and the elders of the parliament determines the future direction of the entire country. If I traveled through time and space and became the son of the king of Wakanda, I would have taken Wakanda to annex the surrounding countries and unify Africa, right? Black Panther. Maybe not everyone can be one, but the vibranium suit is really nothing. A set of suits must be less than 100 kilograms. With the entire Wakanda's 10,000 tons of reserves, it would not be too easy to get 1,000 sets. It is no problem to shuttle through the hail of bullets and you won't get hurt at all. This is nothing. Back then, the B-2 bomber could overwhelm the whole world. Wakanda's aircraft is much higher than the B-2. If it is a stealth bomber, only 100 aircraft are needed to bully the whole world. Of course, this is just a thought. Lao Wang is not fit to be a king, and he has no interest in fighting for power. Besides, he doesn't like the black model. The aircraft landed steadily, and a young black man in a black suit came out. Just a glance, Lao Wang figured out his physical condition. The body density is no different from that of a normal human, but there is a strange energy in his body that increases his physical fitness to 3 to 4 times that of a normal person, roughly the same as a super soldier. What's interesting is that this energy is almost exactly the same as the blessing of the gods of the wilderness. It not only contains life energy, but also spiritual energy. In other words, this person has been blessed by the demigod of the wilderness. No, it's not a blessing. The real blessing of the demigod must be cut off from the soul of the demigod, which is a kind of harm to the demigod itself. If it is not particularly liked, particularly important or for other special reasons, no demigod will do this. The demigod power in this person has no soul but only spirit, so it is not a blessing from the demigod, but just a mark of the demigod. He got the mark of a demigod through some means, most likely some kind of ceremony. This is Wakanda, so there is no doubt about the identity of this person. He is the only son of the king of Wakanda of this generation, the Black Panther of this generation. Only the king can get the power of Black Panther Goddess Buster to become the Black Panther by taking the heart-shaped grass. Generally speaking, this can only be done when the new king is crowned. The king of Wakanda is not a hereditary system. In theory, anyone can become the king through a duel, but everyone knows that it is not that simple. For countless years, the Black Panthers of all generations have always been of the same lineage, so over time, although the ancient traditions have been preserved, no one has taken it seriously. Everyone thinks that the king must be a member of the royal family and the son of the previous king. King Chaka has only one son. In order to ensure his safety, a ceremony was held in advance to take the heart-shaped grass, and no one would say anything. Next to him, there was a bold woman wearing a tight red uniform, with a dozen rings around her neck, and holding a vibranium spear. She was a member of the royal guard, responsible for protecting the king's safety. Bald men and women in the Marvel world are not easy to mess with, and this one is the same. Although the king of Wakanda is a man, women also have a high status, not to mention the royal guard. Although the spear in her hand is not made of pure vibranium, there are many of them. In addition, the vibranium products on her body are much more than the battle robes of the frontier tribes. This kind of spear looks ordinary, but it is actually an energy weapon, similar to the Chitauri, with even higher lethality. If it hits, heavy tanks will also be finished. The royal guard is composed of young and beautiful women. In fact, they are the queen candidates selected by the major tribes. It is not much different from the ancient Chinese talent show. It is normal that their equipment is better than that of ordinary soldiers. The king of this generation is old, and many people in the royal guard have married and had children. Of course, many new members have also been added. No matter how strong the old king was, he couldn't do anything to them. Wakanda practiced monogamy, and the queen had a cold face all day long. He really didn't dare. Those new members were prepared for the next generation of kings, otherwise they wouldn't have come to protect the prince. This is His Royal Highness Prince T'Challa, the owner of the power of the Black Panther. Wakabi obviously had a good relationship with T'Challa, and he hurriedly introduced him. Director Wang, welcome to Wakanda. Although T'Challa was young, he was always steady. Even when facing his idol, he was not excited. His behavior was very aristocratic. Father is waiting for you, please follow me. He made a pleased gesture, and bowed slightly to express enough respect. You are so polite, your royal highness. The old king returned the greeting. The aircraft took off, flew across the sky at a very fast speed, and came to the valley between the mountains. On the surface, it looked like a primeval forest that had existed since ancient times, with trees and grass growing lushly. However, in the blink of an eye, the scene in front of him changed drastically. A metropolis comparable to New York appeared in front of him. Built by the lake, the sky is blue, the lake is clear, and there is not a trace of pollution. This is Wakanda's largest city, Kansas. The river reflects the sunlight and shines brightly. The texture of the ancient city adds new element of high technology. History and technology are perfectly combined here, which makes people shocked and envious. Vibranium is everywhere. Aircraft, maglev trains, other means of transportation, the entire lighting system, everything is related to vibranium. It is said that in the farming era, even hoes were made of vibranium. The whole city is built on the vibranium mine. Lao Wang took a quick look and saw the mountain-like mineral deposits. It is a huge wealth worth hundreds of trillions of US dollars, equivalent to hundreds of Azeroth Group. This is the future of the earth. Lao Wang sighed softly. Chapter 419 Scientific Exchange, Part 2. What did you say? T'Challa asked. How great would it be if the whole earth was like Wakanda? Lao Wang said with a smile. That's impossible. T'Challa was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. There is only one Wakanda in the world. He is the most dazzling pearl on earth, and there will never be a second one. The young Black Panther was obviously very proud of his motherland, and Lao Wang naturally would not refute. Energy is the cornerstone of development. The reason why Wakanda has such a high level of technology is mainly because of vibranium. Vibranium has the energy absorption property and can continuously absorb energy. so it can continuously output energy, ensuring the development of industry and the progress of science and technology, and making Wakanda clean and tidy. As long as clean energy completely replaces mineral energy, the environment of the earth will get better and better, and pollution will disappear step by step. At that time, there will be 10, 100, 1000, and 10,000 Kansas. At that time, won't the earth become Wakanda? Everything depends on human efforts. In any case, it is better than playing with itself behind closed doors like Wakanda. It is not advisable to close the country. Brother, you Wakanda need reform and opening up. The aircraft flew to the center of the city and landed in a huge square. When he stepped out of the aircraft, the king and queen were already waiting at the gate of the palace in the distance. There were also hundreds of fully armed soldiers on both sides. They were all members of the royal guard. Obviously, this standard was already the highest. Even if the leaders of other countries came for a state visit, it would probably be like this. After all, the current old king's status is no less than that of any leader of any country. Even the powerful Wakanda must be given enough respect. Your Majesty, Queen. The old king saluted one by one and cast his eyes on a little girl, held by the queen. She looked only about 10 years old, very cute, thin, and clever. She was Princess Shuri, the youngest daughter of the old king. Her Royal Highness is not simple. The most powerful scientist in Wakanda is actually Prince T'Challa, the Black Panther of this generation. He is a top student at Oxford University. Not only did he get a doctorate in physics, he also studied engineering, economics, politics, and psychology. Although he is not as good as Tony Stark, Dr. Banner and others, he is undoubtedly a top scientist. Even the latest Black Panther suit was designed by him. As long as he puts on the suit, Black Panther is an invincible cockroach. His defense is invincible among ordinary heroes. Even Captain America, who is known as 50-50, can't defeat him completely. But it will be different in the future. Princess Shuri's IQ is no less than Tony Stark's. She is definitely one of the smartest people in the world, the most dazzling pearl of Wakanda, and the hope of the country's future. In the words of the old farmer next door, she is a high-quality golden leek, worth a try. After a simple courtesy, Lao Wang smiled and said, in addition to the scientific and technological exchanges this time, I also brought you a gift. I think you will be interested, Your Majesty. Oh. King T'Chaka was obviously very interested. I wonder what the gift is. A person. Lao Wang raised his hand to draw a circle, and an orange portal appeared. Then, a white man with a lost soul came to him. Do you still recognize him, Your Majesty? The old king smiled. King T'Chaka looked him up and down, and pictures emerged in his mind. His face darkened instantly. It turned out to be him. Once the king of Wakanda takes office, there is no term limit, unless he makes an unforgivable mistake, and he will usually sit there until he dies. T'Chaka has been king for almost 30 years. Under his leadership, Wakanda sold a part of the vibranium in exchange for a lot of wealth, and then sent a lot of scholars abroad, using the money to allow them to study in the best schools in the world, work in the best companies and laboratories, and bring those scientific and technological achievements back to their homeland. These returning scholars have allowed Wakanda's technological level to continue to lead the world and maintain its advantage for at least 50 years. Over the years, he has made many small mistakes, but there is only one thing that really impressed people and has never been able to let go: his brother's rebellion. Back then, Prince N'Job colluded with Ulysses Klaue to steal Wakanda's vibranium. Vibranium is the lifeblood of Wakanda and cannot be lost. Moreover, it caused the deaths of so many people in the border tribe. This blood debt must be paid with blood. Although he killed Prince N'Job himself, the cunning Ulysses Klaue had been on the run and could not be arrested. And now, this man actually appeared in front of him. King T'Chaka felt that he had been holding back for 20 years and finally let out a sigh of relief. He felt more comfortable than ever before. He wanted to execute this man immediately, but he couldn't. The crime committed by Ulysses must be judged by the Council of Elders, and most importantly, an explanation must be given to the border tribe. This is a means of winning over and appeasing. Although he is not very proficient, he has been a king for so many years, and he has understood something. This is a precious gift. King Chaka waved his hand and asked someone to keep Ulysses away and then slowly deal with him when they have time later. Then he looked at Lao Wang. You have won the friendship of Wakanda, Director Wang. We are all from the same global village. I live in the southeast of the village and you live in the northwest. We see each other every day. We are family and we don't have different opinions. Wakanda's affairs are the affairs of the Divine Bureau. We must stabilize the country before we can resist foreign enemies. Humanity must unite to resist foreign enemies. Wakanda is part of humanity. If you have any troubles, just ask. The Divine Bureau will definitely help if it can. Lao Wang laughed. Your Majesty, these are the best scientists in the Divine Bureau. They are very interested in Wakanda's technology and hope to have some exchanges in this area. This is good for both of us. After all, the Divine Bureau is the only one on the entire Earth that can have technological exchanges with Wakanda. This was something that had been discussed long ago. Simple communication would not leak the most important core technology. The God Bureau was interested in Wakanda's technology, and Wakanda was also very curious about the God Bureau's technology, such as controlled nuclear fusion, super soldier serum, and flying fighter jets. The old king looked at his son. Chala, you accompany them to the research institute to have a look. Don't hide anything. What he meant was that he must hide it. Chala clenched his fists in front of his chest and crossed them. Got it, Dad. Dad, I want to go too. Princess Shuri said with her little head tilted up. Okay, you go too. You go too, future scientist. The old king obviously doted on his little daughter. This way, please. Chala led a few people to another nearby building, and the old king followed the old king into the palace. Chapter 420 Exchange, Part 3. Kansas is surrounded by mountains and rivers, with undulating terrain. The palace was built at the highest point. Wakanda has no particular love for big. This palace is not only inferior to those famous architectural wonders, but even many European castles. It is only 40 or 50 stories high, and is not as grand as the Trident headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D., not to mention the Azeroth building. In the words of the old king, all the people in Wakanda are like a family. There is no need to waste money for a palace. If you can save money. The money saved can be used to build the motherland, such as infrastructure construction. In this regard, the old king can only laugh. To put it bluntly, the vibranium of the entire country belongs to the royal family. No matter how much you spend, it is not a waste of money. Where can ordinary people get money to hurt you? In order to maintain the authority of the royal family, so much vibranium is buried underground. The annual mining volume is so small, and it is mainly provided to the royal family and the army. Ordinary people can't touch it at all. What is the idea? Anyone with a discerning eye can see it at a glance. There is not only one heart-shaped grass, such a large area. Can't you really get a few more Black Panthers? It's because they are afraid that, if they do so, it will threaten the rule of the royal family. The ancient traditions have been maintained, and the kings, princes, generals and ministers are not of the same kind. As a result, for thousands of years, the royal family is still the royal family, the tribe is still the tribe, the people are still the people, and the class is more solidified than in any other country. Do you say there are no unsavory means? Who would believe it? Old Wang was empty in his heart, but he smiled on the surface, and talked about this, and that with the old king. It was the international situation, foreign policy, racial and cultural differences, democracy, and freedom. The old king did not run for the throne, and his eloquence was only average. Although he must have prepared a draft, he still couldn't hold it. Director Wang, you usually fight. How can you talk so much? They chatted and talked nonsense for half a day, and met with members of the Council of Elders during the period. It was not until the afternoon that the two talked about business. After dismissing his attendants, the old king asked, Director Wang, if it's just a technology exchange, you don't have to come here in person. Just ask Dr. Tony Stark and the others to come. So what's the matter? Your Majesty is wise. The old king smiled and replied, in the previous war with aliens, we found that military equipment made of ordinary metal alloys alone could not withstand the energy weapon attacks of the Chitauri. In order to better protect the Earth and mankind, the Schengen Bureau hopes to purchase a batch of vibranium from Wakanda. A big hat was directly put on his head. The old king's implication was that this was not for me, Wang, but for the earth and mankind. Living on the same earth, we are also part of the human race. Don't you Wakanda want to do your part? Vibranium, another batch. The old king's heart skipped a beat, but his expression remained unchanged. He took a sip of coffee and said, "How much do you want, Director Wang?" The old king laughed. "Not much, not much. Let's start with 1,000 tons. If it's not enough, we'll talk later." Puff. The old king almost sprayed a mouthful of coffee on the old king's face. 1,000 tons. 1/10 of the total reserves? Mr. Wang, you are not here for friendly communication. I think you are here to cause trouble. He thought that the real purpose of Lao Wang coming here was vibranium, but he thought that 100 kilograms or 1,000 kilograms would be enough. Who would have thought that this man was so thick-skinned, thicker than Steve Rogers' vibranium shield? Director Wang, you are joking. The total vibranium reserves in Wakanda are less than 100 tons. A lot of it has been used over the years, and there is not much left. We have to leave some for future generations, otherwise I will be a sinner in Wakanda. Isn't sustainable development advocated now? The old king had a plan in mind and spoke out. Vibranium is the foundation of Wakanda. We don't sell it. But you are a guest, and I'm willing to donate 10 kilograms of vibranium to the Schengen Bureau in the name of the king, to contribute to the protection of the earth and mankind. His meaning is very simple. It is impossible to sell it, and it is impossible to sell it in this life. I will give you some and get out. Don't say that we are not united. We don't want money. We give it directly. Business is for negotiation. The old king had no intention of moving his butt and took a sip of coffee. Your Majesty, vibranium is a non-renewable resource. How can it be relied on for sustainable development? The old king choked, knowing that this man was not easy to deal with, and asked, Director Wang, then what do you think Wakanda can do to achieve sustainable development? What is the most important thing in the 21st century? Technology, talent, and sustainable resources. The old king smiled and said, Wakanda's technological level is very high, but after all, there are limited scientific researchers. Although it is far ahead of other countries in some aspects, it is much worse in other aspects. Your Majesty will not object to this, right? The old king nodded. This is an obvious thing. No matter how excellent a scientist is, it is impossible to have achievements in all aspects. Everyone has his own expertise. It is already amazing to have achievements in one field. You can't expect too much. It is wrong to isolate the country from the outside world. The trend of globalization is like a rolling wheel that cannot be stopped. If Wakanda wants to develop further, it must open up to the outside world and absorb the science and technology of other countries to make up for its own shortcomings. The old king smiled and said, the Bureau of Divine Sticks is also promoting this. This time I brought scientists here to exchange ideas. That's what I meant. We hope to exchange technology with Wakanda and use the science and technology we have mastered to exchange Wakanda science and technology. Of course, we will definitely not let Wakanda suffer. What do you think, Your Majesty? The old king nodded. I agree with this. If it was before, he really had no interest, because Wakanda's technological level was the best in the world. But now the Bureau of Divine Sticks has emerged, and the number of scientists in the Azeroth group is even 10 times more than that of the entire Wakanda. In fact, the level of technology is not worse than that of Wakanda, which makes him feel pressured. In the past, Wakanda has always looked down on the outside world and believed that it was the only highly developed and civilized country. But now, he suddenly found that this is not the case at all. A Bureau of Divine Sticks is no worse than Wakanda, not to mention that there are alien civilizations, which makes him Alexander. The same goes for talent. Azeroth Group has established a complete education system from kindergarten to university. Although it has just started, the teaching facilities are first class, the teaching level is also first class, and even the group's scientists occasionally teach. Dr. Banner is even willing to teach in kindergarten. The old king continued, doesn't Wakanda always send people to study outside? I think you can go to my school to study, or even work in Azeroth Group, so that you can be exposed to more and more comprehensive scientific knowledge, which is good for Wakanda. Drive Banner, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. The old king was stunned. I remember he seemed to be a top scientist. He actually went to kindergarten. Kindergarten to take care of children? This is incredible. Is there something wrong with that scientist's brain? Children are the flowers of the future, and toddlers are the stars at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Stars, although not very bright, are actually most of the stars we can see, the same as the sun, or even bigger than the Sunday. The old king smiled. To cultivate them is to cultivate the future of mankind. Dr. Banner knows this very well, so he volunteered to teach in the kindergarten. He has always believed that kindergarten is more important than university, and I agree with him. The old king sighed. Drive Banner is amazing. As for sustainable resources, the old king said, vibranium is limited, but cosmic energy is infinite. I wonder if you are willing to use limited vibranium to exchange for infinite cosmic energy. Chapter 421. Do you want to become a Black Panther? Part 1. Infinite cosmic energy. The old king fell into deep thought. With the world's top high technology, Wakanda's intelligence work has always been excellent. It considers itself world class, second only to SHIELD and the Bureau of the Gods, and even stronger than the world's 3 major intelligence organizations. The existence of the Cosmic Cube is no secret. Although he didn't know that there were space gems in the Cosmic Cube, and didn't know those ancient knowledge, he at least knew that the Cosmic Cube could provide almost unlimited energy and open portals. It's no secret that the Cosmic Cube is in the Bureau of the Gods, or in the hands of Director Wang. Could it be? Are you going to exchange the Cosmic Cube for vibranium? The old king frowned. Although the Cosmic Cube is so magical that even aliens are thinking about it, in his heart, vibranium is always the best, and the Cosmic Cube and the Mind Scepter are all garbage. Exchange the Cosmic Cube for vibranium? Okay, is 100 kilograms enough for you? 1,000 tons. Don't even think about it. The old king observed the king's expression and knew what the king, who had little scientific knowledge, was thinking. He shook his head and laughed. Wakanda is a good place. If your majesty agrees, I hope to stay here for a few more days to appreciate the local customs and practices. I think your scientists must be very curious about the Cosmic Cube. I can lend it to you for research. Thank you very much. If you don't take advantage of it, you are a bastard. The old king agreed on the spot. Maybe his own scientists can get a lot of science and technology. How great. The discussion was over. The old king didn't want to talk nonsense with this old man. He turned around and said goodbye and came to the research institute. Wakanda attaches more importance to scientific research than any other country. Although the research institute is not as tall as the royal palace, it is near and occupies a larger area. It looks very high-tech. Accompanied by a royal guard, the old king came to the researcher and heard a fierce quarrel as soon as he entered the door. One by one, terms that they didn't understand at all came out of the mouths of Tony, Banner, Fitz, Chala and others, and it seemed that there were differences in some professional fields. Even the very young Princess Shuri looked up and listened carefully, nodding and shaking her head from time to time, as if she really understood. The old king stood by and listened for a long time with a smile. Seeing Tony almost spitting saliva on Chala's face, he couldn't help but smile. Chala was completely defeated. There was obviously a certain gap between the two people's IQ and scientific literacy. Tony was indeed amazing, and much older than Chala. Experience is wealth, and time is knowledge. However, Chala was not without merit. Even Dr. Banner nodded frequently, and Fitz was fascinated by what he heard. He didn't expect that a prince who was not much older than himself could be so powerful. He was indeed a prince from someone else's family. When they mentioned the Cosmic Cube appeared in front of them. The azure light would make people fall into it at a glance, and couldn't extricate themselves. Especially for these top scientists, the Cosmic Cube represented a part of the truth of the universe, and its temptation was even greater than hamburgers and beauties. Even Tony and Banner had seen it many times, but they had no resistance. Is this the Cosmic Cube? Unlike the old king with a beer belly, His Royal Highness has been paying attention to global technology and knows that the value of the Cosmic Cube is far beyond imagination and is definitely comparable to his own vibranium. He didn't expect to see the real thing now. Your Highness, you are free anyway. Why don't you help us study the cosmic cube? The old king's words were beautiful, and Chala naturally couldn't refuse, and even felt a little embarrassed. Thank you, Director Wang. If you need anything, just let me know. As long as it does not harm the interests of Wakanda, I will do my best to facilitate it. His sincere attitude made the old king, whose thoughts were not pure, ashamed for a second. You guys study yours, I want to go around. Princess, can you help me? The old king exuded an aura of unity between man and nature, and his charm value was +10, which made Princess Shuri feel close, as if she had returned to her mother's arms. The little princess agreed, and the two left the institute hand in hand. Do you like science very much? The old king rubbed the little princess's head and asked with a smile while walking. I just saw you listening to them discussing science. Can you understand it? Part of it. Princess Shui nodded and then shook her head, looking a little ashamed. I can understand most of the gamma ray part, a little of the quantum mechanics part, not much of the high energy physics, and I don't understand it very well. Brother Wang, am I stupid? If you are stupid, then I'm stupid, even stupider than the second senior brother. The corners of the old king's mouth twitched, and he said reluctantly, you are very smart, but you can become smarter. Really? Princess Shuai's eyes lit up. Brother Wang, can you help me? I have wanted to be a scientist since I was a child, a scientist like my brother. His main profession is prince, his second profession is Black Panther, and his third profession is scientist. The old king complained again and asked softly, what do you think of the 3 scientists I brought? Compared with your brother and other scientists in your Wakanda? The little princess thought for a while and commented, Brother Fitz is okay. No one in Wakanda can compare to him except my brother. I think I'm still too young. It will take at least 2 more years for me to catch up with him. But he will also improve. Maybe it will take 3 years. Uncle Tony is the best. No one can compare to him in the field of physical engineering. He is much better than my brother. I think it may take me 5 or 6 years to catch up with him. Of course, he will also improve. It may take 8 or 9 years, or even more than 10 years. Uncle Banner is the most knowledgeable. He is an expert in at least a dozen fields, and he is better than my brother in each field. I think it may take me 3 or 4 years to catch up with him in a single field. If it is all fields, I may not be able to do it in this lifetime. There are some aspects that I'm not interested in at all. Lao Wang sighed inwardly. Chatting with geniuses is too discouraging. If it were not for poaching, he would not want to talk so much with this little princess. It's terrible. Then if you were asked to choose to learn from your brother and the scientists in Wakanda, or to learn from Fitz, Tony, Banner, and more scientists of similar level, which one would you choose? Lao Wang persuaded. Of course it's Uncle Tony and the others. The little princess hugged Lao Wang's arm. Brother Wang, are you saying that I can learn from them? Can I really? I'm just afraid that your father and brother won't agree. Lao Wang smiled. They will definitely agree. The little princess was very happy. They love me the most. Lao Wang laughed. It's easier than I thought. The future top scientist is in my hands. You want to leave after entering Azeroth? How is that possible? I heard that you believe in the Panther goddess Bast. Lao Wang changed the subject. Does she really exist? Just like the immortal dragon Xiao Lao of Kunlun. Lao Wang's charm aura has a desensitizing effect. People who are attracted to him often have an IQ of -10, especially this little princess who is only in her teens. She has always been very smart, but after all, she was young and had never been exposed to the adult world. She didn't understand the wickedness of human nature and said naively, of course. My father told me that when we Wakanda people die, our souls will go to the goddess and turn into a Black Panther. My father said that he has seen the Black Panther goddess, my grandfather, great-grandfather, and even ancestors of all generations. Sure enough, but not all. Only a very few people have this honor. Lao Wang continued to ask, don't you want to be a Black Panther? There can only be one Black Panther, Brother Wang. Princess Shuri seemed a little unwilling. No one doesn't want to be a Black Panther, but there can only be one Black Panther, and that is His Majesty the King. When I was a child, I also wanted to be a Black Panther, and asked Sister Okoye and Sister Nakia to teach me fighting skills. But then I knew that this road was broken, and I came into contact with science, so I wanted to be a scientist. There can really be more than one Black Panther, okay? Lao Wang smiled and asked, then do you know why there can only be one Black Panther? I don't know. Princess Shuri said, but I have a few guesses. First, it is to ensure the supremacy of the royal power. The old king was full of charm, and the little princess told him everything she knew. The power of the Black Panther can only be possessed by the king. This can ensure the uniqueness of the kingship, and can also make the king always healthy and never sick. When facing dangers such as assassinations, he can protect himself. After all, the king is the most important. That makes sense. The old king nodded. Second, it is the order of the goddess. Princess Shuai said, only those who are recognized by the goddess can become Black Panthers. I asked my father and brother about this, and they didn't want to say it. They said that I just need to concentrate on studying science. I have seen the Black Panther ceremony, and this is very likely. Based on my understanding of the demigods of the wilderness, this is impossible. The old king asked, anything else? No more. Princess Shuai sighed. In fact, I also want to become a Black Panther, to protect my country and people, to protect my parents and brother, and sisters Nakia and Okoi. The time is almost here. The old king rubbed the little girl's head. Can I visit the place where you hold the ceremony and see the legendary heart-shaped grass? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 422 Black Panther Goddess Buster, Part 2. Princess Shuri hesitated. The heart-shaped grass is more important than vibranium. It is the place closest to the goddess, and is sacred and inviolable. Not to mention outsiders, even few Wakanda people can go there. But Brother Wang is so charming and good looking, he will definitely not do bad things. Besides, he is the director of the Bureau of Divine Sticks and the Immortal Iron Fist. He has at least 800 super soldiers who are comparable to Black Panther. He doesn't need the heart-shaped grass at all. As for offending the goddess, no. The aura of Brother Wang is very similar to that of the goddess's holy land. The goddess will definitely forgive him, and even favor him. Come with me, Brother Wang. The little princess pulled the old king, and came to the goddess's holy land. The goddess's holy land is just below Kansas, and can be entered from the secret passage under the palace, but it is heavily guarded. When the guards heard that the little princess wanted to bring outsiders in, they obviously refused, but they could not resist the little princess's soft and hard persuasion, plus appropriate threats, so they had to let them in. Following the long underground passage, the two finally came to a small cave. The purple-blue flowers in the distance illuminated the cave, which looked magnificent. That's the heart-shaped grass, Princess Shuri said with some fascination. Vibranium fell to Wakanda with the meteorite, changing the terrain and vegetation here. Some scholars even speculated that the appearance of the goddess was also related to vibranium. The heart-shaped grass is the product of vibranium energy, and has been blessed by the goddess. As long as you take the heart-shaped herb potion through a special ceremony, you can become a Black Panther. The old king's eyes moved closer. There was a round pit there, and there was a yellowish-reddish sand in the pit, which was very abrupt. That's where the ceremony was held. The little princess' eyes were full of desire. Line it, take the heart-shaped herb potion, and be buried in the sand, and you can enter the kingdom of the goddess. Dad and brother said so. That is the only way to see the goddess and ancestors. The old king nodded. Being able to come here is already a special case. If you line it, it will definitely be a blasphemy against the goddess, which will cause hostility from the entire Wakanda, and even war. He did not want to use other means to obtain the power of the Black Panther. To him, that kind of power was no different from that of an ant. It was too weak, and not worth mentioning. It was not his goal. Feeling the special power in the heart-shaped grass and the yellow sand, Lao Wang understood everything completely. He looked down at the little princess beside him. Do you want to meet your goddess? Of course. The little princess' eyes lit up, then dimmed, but this is impossible. Only the Black Panther can see the goddess. Nothing is absolute. How can you know if you don't try? The old king reached out and clenched the little princess's hand, closing his eyes. Release the spirit and sense everything around. A mysterious and gentle force filled the entire cave, constantly nourishing the heart-shaped grass and giving them more powerful power. These forces also penetrated into the yellow sand. The old king probed his mental power into the heart-shaped grass and the yellow sand, and soon sensed the existence of another dimension. Or to be precise, it is not a dimension, but a special world constructed by mental power and vibranium energy. This is a spiritual world that can only be entered by being guided, and for the old king, there are other ways. Active attack is not advisable, but if it is a visit from the same kind, why can't you see it? He waited for 3 minutes. Maybe it was hesitation, maybe it was a test, but in the end the other party agreed. The huge spiritual world opened a gap, and the old king's mental power entered it, and turned into his own appearance. This is a grassland, not very vast. Although you can see the sky in the distance, it is actually bounded. The further you go out, the thinner the mental power. The sky is full of colorful light, which is magnificent. In the vast grassland, there are sparsely distributed giant trees. The tree crowns are very large and the branches are dense. It is impossible for the real world to really exist, because it is shaped by pure spiritual power. The characteristic of the spiritual world is wishes come true. As long as you can think of it, it will appear. In Lao Wang's spiritual world, he can even create the entire Lost Island, and make those familiar pandas reappear. Compared with his spiritual world, the Black Panther goddess is obviously much simpler. There is peace here, with black panthers scattered around. Some are sleeping on the grass or trees, and some are walking. Each black panther is a soul, a black panther, that has died in past generations. They were led by the power of the goddess to this special spiritual world, and will be with her forever. How clever. Old Wang sighed. The benefits of doing this are obvious. With the addition of successive black panthers, the total amount of spiritual power in the spiritual world continues to grow, and become more and more stable. This is the spiritual world of the Black Panther goddess. All spiritual power ultimately belongs to her. In this way, her spiritual power will become stronger and stronger, and her strength will become stronger and stronger. One by one, the Black Panthers came over and surrounded Old Wang. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of them appeared. They stared at Old Wang intently, not understanding why Yellow Man appeared. Did something go wrong outside? Was the goddess Holy Land invaded by the Yellow Man? Suddenly, all the Black Panthers made way. A black panther that was 5 meters tall and more than 10 meters long, with a faint glow in its eyes, slowly walked out of the darkness and came to Old Wang. Old Wang smiled slightly and looked at her. There is no doubt that she is the Black Panther goddess Bast, the panther god in mythology and legend, an extremely powerful existence. She didn't know how many years she had lived, but she had existed at least 10,000 years ago, guiding the ancestors of Wakanda to become the first Black Panther. Whether in age or strength, she is somewhat similar to the wilderness gods in World of Warcraft, or exactly the same. The power of life and soul gathered in her body, which was even stronger than imagined. This is an existence that can completely compete with the immortal dragon Lao. In terms of mental power alone, it even exceeds most of the wilderness demigods, and can almost be compared with the road guardian Melon. And if you take into account the mental power contributed by so many Black Panthers, I'm afraid it's even stronger than Melon. In other words, at least in terms of mental power, she has reached the peak demigod level, that is, the father level of the Marvel Universe. Just like Lao. Of course, other aspects may be weaker, and the overall strength is probably not as good as Thanos without a condom. Such an existence can barely be compared with himself. Who are you? Black Panther opened his mouth, and a soft voice sounded. I feel a familiar power in you. It seems to be related to the dragon in the east. Immortal Iron Fist. Lao Wang transformed into a golden immortal dragon, with a graceful and agile body. Then he returned to his original state. No, it's more than that. The Black Panther continued. You have more than one kind of power. I want to see it. Then I'll show you. The old king smiled. The 4 Azagil souls separated, and the Azure Dragon Yulong, the white tiger Zunu, the red crane Chijing, and the black ox Zenzao appeared. Sure enough, they are my kind. The Black Panther goddess felt it and continued, are they from another world? I know all the gods on earth, and they are not there. Is it from another dimension, or outside this universe? You are very wise, Buster. The old king talked to them on an equal footing, not servile or humble. It's also very powerful. I can feel that you are more powerful than me. The Black Panther goddess asked the key point, what is your purpose in coming here? The old king's heart moved, and he released his mental force to pull. The soul of the little princess appeared next to him. You are the Black Panther goddess. The little princess knelt down quickly, bowed down and worshipped, as respectful as she could be. The old king smiled and said, she is the daughter of the king of Wakanda of this generation, Princess Shuri. She has always wanted to be a Black Panther. But her brother has already obtained the power of the Black Panther. According to the rules, she cannot become a Black Panther, so I brought her to see you to see if you can help. Rules. Buster's face showed a trace of doubt. Is there such a rule? There are many heart-shaped grasses in the cave, at least dozens of them, all of which have been blessed by her. It stands to reason that there should be dozens of Black Panthers at the same time. The little princess is very smart and immediately understood. Only the kings of all generations will use it, and there is only one each time. This is not my intention. Buster said softly, I sleep most of the time, sleeping for hundreds of years, and I didn't expect it to be like this. You have a pure mind. I like you very much. Come here. The little princess hesitated and looked at the old king. The old king laughed immediately. Your own ancestor. What are you afraid of? Buster will not harm you. Go. The little princess walked in front of Buster. Buster raised his paw and tapped the little princess's forehead. A Black Panther shadow appeared and then slowly disappeared. I gave you a mark. It will be of some help to you. Buster said, if you eat the heart-shaped grass with this mark, the effect will be better. The little princess was happy at first, then disappointed. But they won't let me eat the heart-shaped grass. That's easy. The old king smiled and said, when the time comes, you just need to show this mark in public, and everyone will listen to you. If it doesn't work, Buster will help you, and show a miracle or something. Okay. This is a small matter. Buster agreed at once, and the little princess was very happy, thinking that Brother Wang had a big face. He actually talked to the goddess on an equal footing. Is he also a god? Such a thick golden thigh must be hugged tightly. You came here not just for her. Buster looked at the old king. Tell me your real purpose. Chapter 423 World Tree, Part 3. I'm here to help you. Lao Wang smiled slightly. You are missing something here. Although it is a combination of the spiritual world and some vibranium energy, it is not perfect enough. Do you want to see the real perfect world? Perfect world? Buster is not easy to fool. He shook his head and said, the real world is a perfect world, just like the universe we are in. And this is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Nothing is absolute. At least I can give you a direction. Lao Wang said. So. Bast nodded. Then, come on. As soon as the voice fell, Lao Wang's mental power instantly dissipated, including Buster and Princess Shuri. A very special spiritual world appeared in front of him. There were dense vegetation everywhere, and the breath of nature was filled in it. One by one, creatures wandered in it. Although most of them were transformed by the spirit, there were also real ones, such as the four just seen. Some of these creatures were relatively ordinary, but there were also many of them at the same level as himself. This is an unprecedented world. It is simply a paradise for life. Such a world must really exist, otherwise it would not be possible to show it in the spiritual world. What is it called? Buster asked. Emerald Dream. The Emerald Dream is a special world. It is said that it is the dream of the Titan Azeroth while he was sleeping. Freya, the Titan Guardian, reshaped it with Titan power and magic, turning it into a special plane parallel to Azeroth. According to the Marvel Universe, it is a pocket universe, an extra dimension. Just as human dreams have many layers, the Emerald Dream also has many different layers. It is equivalent to many extra dimensions. Titan is the supreme entity in the world of Warcraft, with unfathomable power. Just dreams can form such a perfect world. In fact, the dream of Azeroth can even extend to the depths of the universe, and be sensed by other titans. This kind of power is many times stronger than Lao Wang. Freya shaped the Emerald Dream, created the Cradle of Life, and sowed the seeds of life throughout Azeroth, which led to the later gods of the wilderness. The souls and spirits of those ancient creatures favored by Freya became stronger and stronger over time, and eventually established a connection with the Emerald Dream, and returned to the Emerald Dream once they died. The Emerald Dream is the destination of the demigods of the wilderness. Bast is also a demigod of the wilderness. The Emerald Dream has a fatal attraction for her. How to create such a world? Bast asked. Unless you can achieve a leap in the essence of life and reach another level, it is impossible to do it. Lao Wang replied. Bast looked gloomy. Every creature that has reached her level hopes to go further, whether it is Shao Lao or her, or other earth gods, but it is really difficult. Even Odin didn't do it. Ancient One has a blessing of the eternal god. Maybe after death, he can transcend in the form of Holy Spirit in the process of traveling in the multiverse. As for her, she can't see hope so far. But at least you can keep getting closer. Lao Wang said, except for you and these Black Panthers, everything here is illusory. If you want to create a real world, you must move from illusion to reality. Too difficult. Of course, Bast knew this. But he didn't know how to do it. It's really difficult, but I can help you. Lao Wang said, you need a seed planted in the spiritual world. It is a seed formed by pure natural energy, which can transform between energy and entity, illusion, and reality. With it, your world can slowly transform into reality. Buster was silent for a moment and asked, what do I need to pay? It's nothing. Lao Wang said, of course, if you must repay me, just give me a blessing. Blessing? Not blessing? Buster realized the difference, and fell silent again. Don't you feel bored staying here all the time? Lao Wang asked, separate a part of your soul and attach it to me. I will take you out for a walk, and see this beautiful world. How about it? And the remaining soul you have, can stay in my spiritual world. I think this will be good for you. Buster continued to be silent. She was weighing it. If you split a part of your soul, you definitely can't think of taking it back. It is a great harm, and it will take a long time to recover. But if it can be exchanged for further hope, it is worth it. Hope is just hope. It is impossible to help yourself achieve the transition of the essence of life, but at least you can go further. She is not the most advanced life in this universe now, and there is still a lot of room for improvement. Every bit of progress takes a long time, and maybe that seed can greatly shorten it. Thinking of this, Buster made a decision. She no longer hesitated, separated a trace of her soul, and merged into Lao Wang's spiritual world. After receiving the gift from the Black Panther goddess, Lao Wang instantly felt his whole body lighten, and his soul suddenly became heavier. The power of the Black Panther is a comprehensive enhancement of the body, including but not limited to strength, speed, physique, and intuition. Lao Wang has all of these. The Black Panther is not good at strength. Her strength is speed, and it is also the only ability that is useful to Lao Wang. With this increase in power, Lao Wang's movement speed and reaction speed have been enhanced to a certain extent, and his soul has become stronger because of the addition of the Black Panther's soul. In the spiritual world, the Black Panther wanders with the Azure Dragon, the White Tiger, the Red Crane, and the Black Ox, further stabilizing this world, which is also a great help to Lao Wang himself. Thank you, Bast. The old king sincerely thanked him, and then a trace of spirit entered the heart of Azeroth, and whispered, Azeroth, I want to exchange a seed. What seed? The seed of the mother tree Gaineel. All the plants on my body come from Gaineel's seeds. Different seeds require different blood. You can choose freely. The old king pondered. The strength of the Black Panther goddess Bast is slightly worse than that of the White Tiger Zune, but stronger than the other supreme gods. The blessing of the 4 supreme gods adds up to 400 grams of Azeroth's blood. Bast's gift is worth about 100 grams of Azeroth's blood. The old king is not interested in taking advantage of this, so he said, 100 grams. The level 6 space-time channel is opened. After 3 seconds, a seed appears. The rich natural breath hits her face and attracts Bast's attention. She can feel the pure and ancient natural energy in it, which is definitely useful to her, and it is very useful. With a lifespan of tens of thousands of years, she has traveled around the entire earth many times and seen many ancient trees, many of which have even lived for thousands or tens of thousands of years, and some have even lived for more than 10,000 years. Some of these trees survived the lightning strike and were reborn after receiving the nourishment of rain and dew, full of vitality. But compared to the seed in front of her, it was nothing. It was so small, about the same size as a grain of wheat, and the total energy was not a big deal. But as the man in front of her said, it has both energy and entity, illusion, and reality, and it will definitely help her stabilize her spiritual world and slowly transform into reality. Wrap it with your spirit and life energy and nourish it. Lao Wang said. Buster did it quickly. I'll help you again. Lao Wang took out a ball of water and wrapped the mother tree seed. It quickly took root and sprouted, growing bigger and bigger, and the ball of water disappeared. That was eternal water, containing an imaginable pure energy, which was extremely effective for cultivating plants. A large amount of mental power and life energy was extracted, and the small tree grew bigger and bigger, soon exceeding 10 meters. Then it stopped. Buster felt a little regretful. She had the ability to make the tree grow taller. Her mental power was enough, but her life energy was not enough. Fortunately, the tree existed in both the real world and the spiritual world. It had taken root in the soil of Wakanda, and it was constantly absorbing nutrients and growing. It would definitely grow bigger and bigger. The bigger it grew, the more feedback it would give to the spiritual world. It was a bridge between the two worlds. The Black Panthers could freely travel between the two worlds through the tree, and people from outside could enter, as long as they were allowed. With it, her spiritual world would have the real world as a support, and she could constantly absorb the power of the real world, and her growth would be accelerated. Of course, there were also disadvantages. The tree had become part of the spiritual world. Once it was damaged, her spirit would be severely damaged, and if it polluted the tree, it would also pollute her spiritual world. In general, the advantages definitely outweighed the disadvantages. Be patient and cultivate it. Its potential is unlimited. Lao Wang said. The seeds of the mother tree Garnia contained the original natural energy, and any one of them had the potential to grow into the world tree. Although without enough eternal well water to nourish it, it would certainly not reach the level of Nordrassil, but if the goal is just the lower grade ancient tree or tree of life, it may not be impossible. I will. Bast stepped forward, lowered his head, and rubbed Lao Wang's body. Thank you. You're welcome. You are also a part of the earth. Helping you is helping myself. Lao Wang laughed, and left the spiritual world with the little Princess Shuri. Chapter 424 The Value of the Cosmic Cube Part 1. Brother Wang, there is a small tree over there. Princess Su are you? I saw the small tree at first sight. It grew where the heart-shaped grass was planted, and its branches had extended into the rocks, growing upwards. Rich natural energy permeated the entire cave, and part of it was absorbed by the heart-shaped grass. There is no doubt, as time goes by, the effect of these heart-shaped grasses that absorb natural energy will become better and better, and the Black Panthers will only become stronger and stronger in the future. Someone is coming. The little princess brought outsiders into the cave. Although the guards could not stop them, they would definitely inform the king and queen. And the appearance of the small tree also caused quite a stir. Director Wang, how can you enter our holy land? This is a great disrespect to the goddess. The old king accused him as soon as he came in, but soon found something wrong. Where did that tree come from? Why did I feel the power of the goddess on that tree? It's like this, Dad. The little princess explained everything that had happened before, and then said, the goddess has promised me that I can also become a Black Panther. This matter still needs to be discussed carefully. The old king hesitated. The Black Panther mark on the daughter's forehead does have the breath of the goddess, but there has never been any relevant record in the royal books. Could it be that the daughter is more loved by the goddess than all the ancestors? At this moment, a Black Panther walked out of the illusion and said, it's true. She is more suitable to be the Black Panther than any of you. She has my blessing. Then she looked at the old king deeply, nodded slightly, and disappeared. The old king was stunned. What's going on? Since the first generation of Black Panther, this is the first time that the goddess has appeared in the real world. Not only did she specifically affirm her own daughter, but why does it seem that she has a good relationship with Director Wang? This is the situation. The old king smiled slightly. Princess Shuri is already Bast's chosen person. I think you should know what this means. What does it mean? It means that the status of this little princess has surpassed that of the king. Do I have to salute my daughter? The old king felt happy and bitter in his heart. Dad. Chala finally rushed over from the institute. Hearing Princess Shuri's retelling, he was even more bitter than the old king. Originally, the throne of the king is mine. But now, it seems that my sister is more suitable. I think you should hold a ceremony for Princess Shuri first. The old king was not interested in interfering in the internal affairs of other countries and broke the deadlock. This is an order from your goddess herself. Of course, the goddess's order cannot be violated. Otherwise, what if she does not protect Wakanda? No matter how much vibranium there is, it is not as good as a sub-father level strongman. Not to mention that she can take back the power of the Black Panther at any time. The ceremony was held quickly, and the old king watched. Princess Shuri lay in the round pit, and the queen personally picked the best growing heart-shaped grass and crushed it, and then added some unknown liquid. Pour it into the little princess's mouth. Buried in sand. After half an hour, the little princess crawled out of the sand. Not bad. The old king looked up and down and smiled slightly. Buster's blessing really worked, and the heart-shaped grass that absorbed natural energy was better than before. Although the little princess is young and still in the development stage, her physical fitness is even stronger than her brother now, and she can be called a superhero. That evening, after dinner with the old king and others, the king's family began an internal conversation. Tell me what you think. The old king asked. I'm not interested in being a king anyway. Okay, queen, I'm a scientist. Freed from the old king's aura of lowering intelligence, Princess Shuri's IQ came online, and she understood what the old king was worried about. Being a king is too worrying. Let your brother do it. Seeing that their daughter/sister was sincere, the old king and Chala breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. If Princess Shuri insisted, it would be difficult for them to deal with it. After all, she has a special identity and is the only one chosen by the goddess in thousands of years. Chala, how is the research on the cosmic cube going? The big stone in his heart finally fell, and the old king felt much more relaxed. Director Wang wants to exchange our vibranium with the cosmic cube. I want to ask your opinion. Chala raised his eyebrows. Exchange? How much? The old king shook his head. It's not yet determined. How much vibranium do you think the cosmic cube is worth? Chala thought for a while and said, the cosmic cube has two main functions. One is to continuously draw energy from the universe, and the other is to open a portal to any place in the universe. Its value is inestimable. How could Director Wang be willing to exchange it? Our vibranium is not bad either. The old king is very confident in his own treasure. Dad, the two are not on the same level. Chala smiled bitterly. With the cosmic cube, there is unlimited energy. Its input power is many times higher than the consumption of our entire country of Wakanda. The energy output every year is worth hundreds of tons of vibranium. The old king was shocked. He didn't expect it to be so much. In other words, the energy output of the cosmic cube for 100 years is equivalent to all our vibranium reserves. Such a treasure must be obtained. That's not how it's calculated, Dad. Chala was deeply worried about his father's IQ and patiently explained. Vibranium is the foundation of all our technology in the entire Wakanda. The additional value generated by vibranium far exceeds the vibranium itself. The total value generated by 10,000 tons of vibranium in 100 years must at least be multiplied tenfold or even dozens of times. Then, what about teleportation? The old king asked. This ability should be very strong, right? With the ability to teleport, we can go to outer space to collect resources. This value should be higher than energy output, right? Not necessarily. Chala had to continue explaining. First, it is possible to open a portal, but it consumes a lot of energy. Secondly, you must master the corresponding knowledge and the coordinates of the destination to successfully open the door. These are not that simple. Besides, the universe is so big, and most of it is vacuum. There must not be many valuable resource stars. It's so easy to find them anywhere. The old king thought for a while and said, I understand. In fact, the energy output of the cosmic cube is itself prepared for opening a portal. Even if we open the door to collect resources, the value of the resources collected may not be as good as the energy consumed. It is likely that it is not as good. Chala said, in fact, its greatest value is its research value. If it can be used to develop light speed engines, curvature engines, jump technology, more efficient and safer controlled nuclear fusion technology, and energy battery technology, it will be more valuable. The old king didn't understand this. He asked directly, if you want to exchange it for the cosmic cube, how much vibranium do you think is appropriate? Dad, I still think that Director Wang will not sell the cosmic cube. If I were him, I would definitely not. Chala couldn't figure out why Director Wang wanted to sell such a good thing. Was he crazy? Since his father asked, he had to answer. After thinking carefully and calculating seriously, Chala finally said, 1,000 tons should be a relatively suitable price, and maybe it will satisfy Director Wang. 1,000 tons. The old king covered his chest and felt his heart hurt. The total amount of vibranium in the whole of Wakanda is only 10,000 tons. It costs 1/10 of it to buy a cosmic cube. Too expensive. The value of 1,000 tons of vibranium itself is at least 10 trillion US dollars. There is really no way to measure it. It could be 20 or 30 billion, which is equivalent to the annual GDP of the United States. It is really difficult to make a decision with such a large transaction amount. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. He had a premonition that he would be hungry in the next few days and would not be able to eat at all. This matter is a national policy and must be discussed with the elders. I don't know if those guys who care more about vibranium than I do will agree. Dad, if Director Wang is really willing to sell it, I think I will buy it even at a premium. Chala solemnly stated. Okay, go and get busy. The old king waved his hand. Chapter 425 You may not lose, but I will always make money. Part 2. 3 days passed in a flash. On this day, the old king said goodbye to the king. I'm sorry to have disturbed you for so long. We should leave now. The old king said apologetically, there are still many things waiting for us to deal with at home, so we can't stay for long. The old king was stunned. Are we leaving now? But we haven't come to a conclusion yet. He was anxious and stopped the old king. Wait a minute. You haven't visited our vibranium mine yet, right? There are the world's top mining technologies, as well as sonic technology and magnetic levitation technology. You will definitely be interested. He couldn't help but be anxious. During these 3 days, the top scientists in Wakanda were at the institute, conducting research on the cosmic cube. As the research progressed, they learned more and more about the cosmic cube, and they also became more and more aware of what kind of rare cosmic treasure it was. If they could thoroughly study it, the knowledge and technology they would get would be priceless. When he held a meeting to discuss whether to buy the cosmic cube, all the scientists had the same opinion. It must be purchased at all costs. However, the elders of each tribe had different opinions. They were all old guys who had lived a long life and had never seen much of the world. They were stubborn and believed that vibranium was the foundation of Wakanda and could not be sold no matter what, even if it was buried underground for 10,000 years. The old king reluctantly said, well, okay, we'll stay for half a day, but only half a day. The old king winked at Chala, who quickly said, please follow me, everyone. You don't know enough about vibranium, and its value is much higher than you think. He introduced it as he walked, and his words meant one thing: don't hesitate, hurry up and exchange the cosmic cube for vibranium. On the other side, the old king immediately held an emergency meeting. He slammed the table in public and promised a lot of benefits before convincing the elders of each tribe to reach an agreement. When Lao Wang came back, the old king was smiling and almost grabbed Lao Wang's hand. Director Wang, we are willing to use 300 tons of vibranium in exchange for the cosmic cube. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Lao Wang. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I actually want to sell the cosmic cube to you, but it is not mine. It belongs to all mankind, and I have no right to sell it. If I sell it to you, I will be a sinner of the earth and a sinner of mankind. Director Wang, you are joking. Of course it is yours. It is the trophy you got from the enemy. Whoever dares to say it is not yours, I will be the first to disagree. The old king quickly expressed his opinion, then stretched out a hand with 5 fingers spread out. 500 tons of vibranium. Lao Wang sighed. Your Majesty, you are making things difficult for me. The old king raised the price again. 700 tons. Director Wang, this is all the vibranium we can take out. Without damaging the national interest, you can't make things difficult for me. I won't make things difficult for you. Old Wang smiled slightly. The cosmic cube really cannot be sold. Otherwise it will be difficult for you and me. Even if you increase the price to 1000 tons, I will. The old king gritted his teeth and said, 1000 tons of vibranium. Old Wang immediately grabbed the old king's hand and looked into each other's eyes. Deal. National Research Institute. Looking at the cosmic cube held up by the precision equipment in front of him, the old king frowned. 1000 tons of vibranium, a full 1000 tons. For thousands of years, all the vibranium consumed by Wakanda has added up to less than 1/10 of this number. Chala, if I can't research anything, I will be a sinner of Wakanda, and I will not have the face to see the goddess and the ancestors of all generations after I die. Chala hurriedly comforted. I will definitely be able to research something. I will definitely be able to. Oh, let's hope. The old king sighed deeply. Your sister is still so young and is about to leave Wakanda. I don't know if she can adapt or will be bullied by others. I should send 100 royal guards to protect her. Just after the business was settled, Princess Shuri took the initiative to propose to follow Director Wang to the Azeroth laboratory for further studies. In fact, this was already discussed long ago, in line with the national policy that has always been to learn advanced knowledge from others and then come back to work for Wakanda. Chala did this back then. Don't worry, Dad. She took a set of Black Panther suits with her. Besides, with her current physical condition, we may not be able to beat her, even if we add up. And she can ask us for help at any time. The whole Wakanda is her backing. Chala comforted again. Director Wang will also take extra care of her. With Director Wang here, no one on Earth can bully my sister. I hope so. The old king looked at his son. Director Wang invited you to join the Gods Bureau. What are your plans for this? Before leaving, the old king invited Chala to join the Gods Bureau, which was also regarded as strengthening the connection between Wakanda and the Gods Bureau and the whole world, and making a contribution to protecting the earth and protecting mankind. At that time, Chala said he would consider it, which actually meant that he wanted to discuss it with his family. Dad, I think this is an opportunity. Chala said. Director Wang just hopes that I can go in name only, and he also gave me extremely high authority. If I still refuse, wouldn't it be a bit bad? He is not young anymore, and he considers the problem very comprehensively. The Gods Bureau is not any country, but it deserves more attention than most countries. Director Wang has more face than all the leaders of countries in the world. If you still refuse the invitation personally, wouldn't it be a disrespect to Director Wang? Why bother? The old king sighed. Then go. After saying this, he turned and walked towards the bedroom. Looking at his father's back, Chala was stunned. He suddenly realized that his father was really old and much older. Ah, boss, I think you sold it at a loss. Returning to the Azeroth laboratory, Princess Shuri was settled, and several people gathered in the Infinity Gem laboratory. Fitz finally couldn't help complaining. The value of the cosmic cube is definitely more than 1000 tons of vibranium, more than 10,000 tons. I think it's about the same. Dr. Banner said, if it's just the cosmic cube. What do you mean? Fitz was puzzled. What do you mean by just the cosmic cube? Isn't the cosmic cube enough? Do you want to sell the Mind Scepter together? On the surface, the old king smiled and said, look at this. He raised his hand, and a nearly ellipsoidal sapphire appeared in the air. Fitz's eyes widened instantly. This is the space stone. You took it out? He finally understood. It turned out that the boss sold the cosmic cube and took out the space stone. Without the space stone, the output power of the cosmic cube will definitely be reduced a lot, and it will also lose the ability to teleport anywhere in the universe with a distance limit. Even the research value has been reduced a lot. It is hard to say whether it can be used to develop warping technology and superluminal engines. The boss is indeed a profiteer. The other party may not lose money, but he will definitely make a lot of money. But how did it get it out? The cosmic cube is so hard that it can't be opened after more than a dozen methods. Does the boss have such a strong hand? In addition, there is a piece missing from the cosmic cube. Wakanda's technological level is so high, how come no one has discovered it? This is not only his question, but also the question of others. Okay, you guys continue your research. Be careful, don't touch it, or you will all die, except for Dr. Banner. Lao Wang was not interested in explaining, and carefully reminded, remember, the cosmic cube was snatched from Loki, and the infinity stones were obtained from the depths of the universe. They are not the same thing, do you understand? Understood. Several people were helpless. Are you addicted to cheating? Well, it's not a lie. Even without the space stones, the cosmic cube still has the abilities it should have. The value of this kind of treasure is difficult to keep constant. For some people, it is not even worth 100 tons of vibranium, but for others, 1000 tons of vibranium are not a loss. As for whether Wakanda is the former or the latter, it depends on their abilities. Lao Wang turned and left, and the cold snort of the Black Panther goddess sounded in his mind. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.